Chapter 8:21. As soon as the rope soared into the sky, it immediately turned into a ray of silver lightning and flung at Ning Fan. When it was only 3 zhang away from Ning Fan, the lightning rope trembled and shattered into tens of thousands of silver lightning rays. Like a rainstorm, they struck down from the sky with a sizzling sound. The gloomy demon mountain was immediately illuminated by the lightning that descended from the sky. An ancient dragon's roar suddenly rang out in the world. It's the lightning-scattering whip. Junior brother Qing Mu has already successfully forged this treasure. Among the weapon grandmasters, a few people immediately exclaimed. This lightning whip has the soul of a primeval lightning dragon as its artifact spirit, and its quality has already attained the rank of a postnatal heavenly immortal artifact. Only Du Zhen can resist it. Looks like junior brother Qing Mu alone is enough to take down this person. A few more confident voices came from the group of weapon grandmasters. Ning Fan's eyes glinted with a cold light. How could he not see that the 14th military master attacked him because he had killed the sect master of the Seven Fiends sect? The ghost weapon sect was not as powerful as the Battle King Luo clan, but they dared to brazenly attack the tomb keeper of the Luo clan for a mere Seven Fiends sect master. This matter was really strange. With Ning Fan's years of cultivation and wisdom, he already understood that this Seven Fiends sect master had a great significance to the ghost weapon sect. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to incite the wrath of the 14 military masters. He had killed the Seven Fiends sect master, which meant that he had completely become enemies with the ghost weapon sect. This was an accident. However, even if he knew that killing the Seven Fiends sect master would offend the ghost weapon sect, he would not have any hesitation. He must kill the Seven Fiends sect master. As for the 14 weapon masters of the ghost weapon sect, it was absolutely impossible for them to capture Ning Fan and punish him. Ning Fan coldly stared at the sky that was filled with lightning bolts. The blood star on his glabella flashed and his eyes immediately emitted an indescribably terrifying lightning might. His cold gaze swept across the sky that was filled with lightning bolts. It actually made the lightning bolts that were striking down from the sky suddenly stop and hesitate. None of them actually dared to strike Ning Fan's body. They seemed to be afraid of Ning Fan. No, it was not that they were afraid of him. Instead, they were afraid of the blood-red star on his glabella. It was as if that tiny blood star was something extremely terrifying to the lightning that filled the sky. The thunder-scattering whip actually failed. The burly man in a green robe was shocked. He suddenly bit the tip of his tongue and spat a mouthful of blood mist in the direction of the lightning in the sky. Evil creature! What are you waiting for? In the face of this rebuke, the lightning in the sky was no longer fearful, and it condensed into a lightning dragon that was over 1,000 feet long. The lightning dragon's eyes were filled with ferocity. It opened its mouth and swallowed Ning Fan. It actually wanted to swallow him whole and kill him. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. He stomped on the ground and a blood-red lightning formation diagram immediately spread out from his feet. The moment the lightning diagram appeared, the originally vicious Lei Long immediately revealed an expression of terror. Without saying a word, it turned around and fled. Unfortunately, just as it turned around, a blood-colored lightning hand suddenly flew out of the lightning diagram and slammed down on its body. The instant the giant hand slammed into the lightning dragon, all of its lightning energy vanished, as if it had been stripped away by the giant hand. Cracks of lightning spread across the lightning dragon's body. In the next moment, the lightning dragon let out a miserable shriek and exploded into countless lightning sparks. The lightning rays condensed and turned into a silver lightning whip again. It fell from the sky and was kept by Ning Fan with a raise of his hand. Without saying a word, he wiped the whip with his palm and erased all the spirit sense imprints within it. All of a sudden, the burly man's face turned pale. He immediately coughed out blood and took a few steps back. He looked at Ning Fan with extreme shock and anger. He was shocked because Ning Fan was only at the peak ghost profound realm, but he could actually destroy his most powerful natal magical treasure, the thunder-scattering whip, with just a lift of his hand. The strength that Ning Fan displayed was definitely not at the ghost profound realm. It was probably comparable to old monster Du Zhen. He was angry because Ning Fan actually dared to erase the natal imprints on his magical treasure and directly took away the thunder-scattering whip. Considering the friendship between the Luo clan and the ghost weapon sect, I won't hold it against you since it's your first time attacking. If you continue to pester me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Ning Fan dispersed the lightning diagram and kept the thunder-scattering whip into his storage pouch. With a leap, he was about to leave. How dare you kill the sect master of the Seven Fiends sect? How can I let you leave the ghost weapon sect? Stay here for me. An ugly middle-aged woman immediately walked out from behind the burly man in green robes. Her cultivation base was at the early True Crossing realm. Her appearance was ugly. There were even a few hideous scars on her face. They were caused by the backlash of her magical treasures when she failed to refine her magical treasures several times. Even though she was ugly, her body carried a strong sword chi that could not be ignored. At the moment she took a step forward, 4 rays of extremely dazzling purple sword light rushed out from the top of her head and soared into the sky. The 4 rays of sword light surrounded Ning Fan in 4 directions of heaven and earth. The rays of light connected and formed a rhombus-shaped sword formation diagram that was filled with killing intent. 4 directions sword formation appear. The ugly middle-aged woman shouted coldly. Immediately, 4 illusory figures of Qilin flew out from the 4 rays of purple sword light and went into the formation. At the next moment, the illusory figure of a giant suddenly appeared at the center of the sword formation. It had 4 arms and each of its arms was holding an ancient sword with the image of a Qilin carved on it. Your abilities aren't weak, but you aren't the real True Crossing realm after all. You aren't my match. For direction sword, suppress him for me. The ugly middle-aged woman changed her hand seal and the 4-armed giant immediately swung its 4 swords at Ning Fan's head. At this moment, all the light in heaven and earth dimmed. Only the purple sword light that blotted out the sky was left, illuminating heaven and earth. Ning Fan's expression was as cold as ice. There was no other expression on his face. Without saying a word, he lifted his foot and stomped on the sword formation diagram beneath his feet. An unimaginably huge force immediately bombarded the sword formation diagram, forming a destructive force that was enough to kill an early True Crossing realm cultivator. It spread crazily along the sword formation diagram. The sword formation diagram beneath Ning Fan's feet let out an earth-shattering boom and directly exploded into countless pieces. The destructive force continued to spread crazily and reached the body of the 4-armed giant, causing it to tremble violently. The 4-armed giant's action of slashing the sword light immediately stopped. Its eyes were filled with fear. At the next moment, the 4-armed giant let out a blood-curdling scream. Its illusory body was torn into countless pieces by the destructive force. Its blood spilled across the sky. The 4 purple sword lights in the sky also exploded at the same time, turning into countless fragments of flying swords. The ugly woman whose life was connected to the 4 swords turned pale and spurted out a mouthful of blood just like the burly man in green robes. Her expression when she looked at Ning Fan was filled with disbelief. This man is just a peak ghost profound realm cultivator. He actually destroyed the 4-direction sword formation that I had painstakingly refined for tens of thousands of years with just a kick. Even early True Crossing realm old monsters wouldn't be able to do this. Is this man really just a ghost profound realm cultivator? There won't be a third time. Ning Fan's cold eyes glanced at the 14 military masters. Then, he leaped and was about to flee out of the lunar calamity sea. He had already given the 14 military masters of the ghost weapon sect 2 chances out of respect for the Luo clan. However, if these people continue to be stubborn and insist on pestering him, he would definitely not show any mercy. This man's abilities aren't weak. Let's attack together and take him down. The person with the highest cultivation base among the 14 military masters ordered coldly. It was a plump old man. His entire body was covered in armor. Only his gloomy eyes could be seen. He was the number 1 military master among the 14 military masters. His cultivation base was also the highest among them. As soon as he gave the order, All the military masters immediately soared into the sky and surrounded Ning Fan. This man has killed the sect master of the Seven Fiends sect. We can't give our old ancestor an explanation. We will certainly be refined by him. Even if we have to kill him here today, we must stop him from leaving the ghost weapon sect. We must not let him leave alive. The plump old man ordered in a deep voice. The eyes of the 13 military masters were filled with killing intent. Each of them took out their magic treasures and charged towards Ning Fan. With the joint attack of these 14 people, unless he was a mid-true crossing realm expert, it was impossible for him to break out of the encirclement. The disciples who guarded the mountain and the 7-second step cultivators who came here to seek treasures were all shocked. They had never thought that the 14 military masters of the ghost weapon sect would actually attack the dignified tombkeeper of the Luo clan. This was simply a provocation to the dignity of the Luo clan, the War King. The coldness in Ning Fan's eyes reached its peak at this moment. He had given in to them several times, but the other party kept pushing him. He did not want to attack them because they were cultivators of the ghost weapon sect. However, they did not care about his identity as the tombkeeper of the Luo clan and acted recklessly. Since that was the case, why should he show mercy to them? Since these people dared to try to kill him, they would have to bear all the consequences. Just 14 vessels and you dare to attack me? Since that's the case, I will definitely force all of you to reveal your true form. As soon as Ning Fan said those words, the expressions of the 14 military masters changed drastically. Everyone around them was puzzled. It was hard for them to imagine that Ning Fan could actually see through the secrets in their bodies, even though he was not an old monster who was known as the Broken Thoughts Old Monster. Given the ghost weapon old ancestors' refining technique, normally, only those old monsters who were known as the Broken Thoughts Old Monsters would be able to see through their secrets. Everyone was shocked and their attacks could not help but slow down. Before all the attacks could reach him, a wave of black flames suddenly flashed under Ning Fan's feet and gently spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, he left an afterimage that was rapidly disappearing from where he was standing. His actual body directly appeared behind the 3 late Ghost Profound Realm military masters. Without saying any unnecessary words, he directly threw a punch at the 3 of them. This punch contained all the essence, chi, and power of the ancient devil body. Its destructive power was far beyond the endurance of ordinary early true crossing realm cultivators. It was definitely not something that a few late Ghost Profound Realm military masters could withstand. The entire heaven and earth around the Devil Mountain seemed to have been frozen by this punch. All living beings below the true crossing realm seemed to have turned into nothingness under this punch. The 3 late Ghost Profound Realm military masters only had the time to turn their heads to look at Ning Fan in horror before they were hit by his fist light. All of their consciousness was suspended at this moment. An indescribable pain became the last thing they felt. Being hit by this person's fist light feels like being hit by an entire cultivation planet. This person's strength is really strong and his body refinement realm is really shocking. Bang, bang, bang. The physical bodies of the 3 late Ghost Profound Realm military masters directly turned into blood mist under Ning Fan's fist light. The 3 of them did not carry any storage pouches with them. It was quite strange. At the instant the 3 of them died, 3 pearls that shone with a silver light immediately appeared in the sky. The power of their nascent divinities, as well as the essence of their flesh and blood, were all absorbed by the pearls. Those pearls had been nourished in the bodies of the 3 late Ghost Profound Realm military masters for many years. Those pearls were 3 peak 5th Nirvana acquired immortal treasures. The true bodies of these 3 military masters are actually nourishing such powerful magic treasures. Could it be that all the military masters of the Ghost Weapon sect are nourishing magic treasures? Could it be? Du Zhen, one of the 7 cultivators who sought the treasures, immediately exclaimed. He seemed to have understood something and gained a new understanding of the cruelty of the old ancestor of the Ghost Weapon sect. I once heard that there is an extremely cruel method of refining treasures in the cultivation world. It uses the human body to nourish magic treasures. Could it be? Could it be? Du Zhen, another cultivator who sought the treasures, also understood something at this moment. He immediately felt a chill down his spine towards the old ancestor of the ghost weapon sect. Ning Fan casually kept the 3 acquired pearls. After killing 3 people in a row, he moved like a ghost and appeared behind the 4th person again. He stretched out both of his hands and exerted a tremendous force that seemed to be able to tear heaven and earth apart. He directly tore a peak ghost profound realm military master into pieces. After that, he kept the pearls in his body. Then, he went on to the 5th person, the 6th person and the 7th person. Ning Fan's movement technique was too fast. It was so fast that none of the military masters could capture his movements. The only thing they could see was the black flames that kept appearing everywhere in the vast sky and the afterimages that kept fading away. The only thing they could hear was the miserable screams of the military masters. The burly man in green robes was the 10th person Ning Fan killed. When Ning Fan appeared behind him, the hairs on his body stood on end. He wanted to turn around and defend himself, but he did not have the time to do so at all. An intense pain spread throughout his body. His physical body was immediately torn into countless pieces by Ning Fan. His blood sprayed across the vast sky like a rain of blood. As for the 10th pearl in his body, Ning Fan took it away with a raise of his hand. In the vast sky, 10 people had fallen in a row within a very short period of time. Only 4 military masters were left. When the 4 of them looked at Ning Fan, their expressions were filled with shock. The strength that Ning Fan had shown by killing 10 people in a row was not any weaker than a mid-duzhen old monster. I have never heard of any ghost profound realm expert whose strength could approach the mid-duzhen realm. At this moment, the plump old man's eyes were filled with astonishment. However, at the next moment, his astonishment turned into ruthlessness and he said coldly, "No matter what, I must kill this young man. Otherwise, I won't be able to give my old ancestor an explanation. Junior brother, junior sister, all of you can die now. Only when all of you are dead will I have the strength to kill this young man." As soon as the plump old man finished speaking, he suddenly activated the pearls in his body. At the moment he activated the pearls, the other 3 military masters, including the ugly woman, revealed expressions of shock and anger. All of them glared at the plump old man. There was even a hint of fear in their expressions. Before they could say anything, their bodies suddenly inflated like balloons. When they had inflated to the maximum, they exploded into countless pieces of flesh and blood. Their flesh, blood, essence, and primordial spirits were all absorbed by the pearls in their bodies. After the 3 of them died, the 3 pearls immediately turned into 3 rays of light and flew into the plump old man's body. All of a sudden, the plump old man revealed an extremely painful expression. His originally plump body seemed to have been devoured by something. In an instant, he became thinner and his life force rapidly flowed away. His chi became lifeless. However, his aura force continued to rise. In an instant, it had almost reached the peak of the early Duzhen realm. Well done. Well done. You have killed my junior brothers and sisters. Now, I will kill you and take back all the pearls. After devouring them all, I can naturally borrow the power of the pearls to improve my cultivation base greatly. It will also be very likely for me to step into the mid-Duzhen realm. The plump old man smiled coldly. His body suddenly grew taller and he strode forward. Every time he took a step forward, the entire sky would tremble violently. His aura force also became slightly stronger. After taking 5 steps, the old man's body suddenly shone with a bloody light. Traces of magic power flowed out of his body, turning into waves of blood mist that wrapped around his body. His entire body was hidden in the mist. All of a sudden, he moved at an extremely fast speed, directly rushing towards Ning Fan like a meteor. The force of the collision was enough to instantly kill any Duzhen whose cultivation base had yet to stabilize. Inside the blood mist, the old man was chanting an incantation. The space within 10,000 zhang seemed to have frozen, not allowing Ning Fan to escape. This plump old man was trying to kill Ning Fan in a single move. At this moment, Ning Fan's eyes were ignited with the flames of battle intent. After the 9 traces of battle intent, they suddenly hovered around his body. Then they flashed and went back into his body. His black hair turned blood red. At this moment, his white robes were enshrouded in a bloody light, turning into a blood-red robe. His body also began to grow taller. His ancient devil cultivation base, on the other hand, had skyrocketed the moment he turned into a red robe with red hair and robes. Originally, his ancient devil cultivation base had already reached the peak of the Sichan realm, and there was still a slight distance between him and the heavenly devil realm. However, at this moment, Ning Fan used a secret technique to forcefully increase the strength of his physical body to the heavenly devil realm. The secret technique that he used was naturally the war god art. The first nirvana level of the 12 nirvana of the heavenly devil realm corresponded to the early Dujin realm. After displaying the first transformation of the war god, Ning Fan's ancient devil cultivation base had already advanced to the first nirvana of the heavenly devil realm. At this moment, when Ning Fan activated his essence chi and magic power at the same time, he was no longer any weaker than an ordinary mid-Dujin realm expert. As soon as he raised his hand and pressed his 5 fingers together, the entire heaven and earth immediately trembled violently. The sound of glass shattering resounded. The sky that was originally tightly sealed was immediately broken. Not good. The plump old man's heart suddenly skipped a beat. A feeling of extreme danger immediately rushed into his heart. Ning Fan took a step forward and directly walked towards the plump old man. At the moment when he was about to be hit by the ladder, he suddenly raised his hand and threw 3 punches in a split second. Bang, bang, bang. The first ray of fist light stopped the momentum of the plump old man's attack. The second ray of fist light dispersed the blood mist on the plump old man's body. The third ray of fist light directly smashed the plump old man's armor into pieces. The aftershock of the fist light immediately hit the plump old man's body, causing him to spurt out blood and fly backwards. The fist light also contained an irresistible destructive force that wreaked havoc in the plump old man's body. In just an instant, the plump old man's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He was on the verge of death. Although he managed to stabilize his momentum, his combat power was already unstable in the sky. His limbs and bones were all in extreme pain. He no longer had the strength to continue fighting. The way he looked at Ning Fan was filled with incomparable fear. Impossible! You are just a ghost profound realm expert. How could you have the combat power of a mid-Dujin realm expert? You can't kill me. If you kill me, my old ancestor will certainly. The plump old man's face was filled with fear. In his eyes, Ning Fan, whose red hair and red robes were fluttering in the wind, was walking towards him step by step. His eyes were filled with killing intent. The terrifying baleful chi of a devil monarch turned into a bloody flame and spread wildly under Ning Fan's feet. He wanted to beg for mercy and threaten Ning Fan. However, before he could finish his words, he felt a sharp pain coming from his body. Unknowingly, Ning Fan, who was walking towards them, had already left behind an afterimage on his original spot. A destructive force fiercely bombarded the plump old man's back, completely ending his life. Bang! After a loud explosion, the old man's body exploded into a mist of blood, leaving behind 4 precious pearls. Ning Fan waved his hand and kept the pearls. Then he directly descended towards the mountain gate of the ghost weapon sect. He was not afraid of the plump old man's threat. He quietly looked at the direction of the mountain gate, ignoring the terrified expressions of all the cultivators in the area. From the mountain gate, a bald old man who was as skinny as a match slowly walked out. He looked like a zombie, and his expression when he looked at Ning Fan was filled with a hint of coldness. Little friend, it's fine if you killed those containers. However, you actually dared to kill the sect master of the 7 evil sect. Aren't you going to give me an explanation? Even if you are Luo Shi's subordinate, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, don't even think about leaving the Een Moon Star alive today. Ning Fan's eyes darkened. He didn't expect that after coming to the ghost weapon sect, he would not only fail to obtain the devil armor, but also become enemies with the ghost weapon sect. This enmity was inexplicably caused by the 7 evil sect. However, even if he could relive his life, even if he knew that he would offend the Ghost Weapon sect, he would still resolutely kill the sect master of the Seven Evil sect. He would also not be afraid of the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor. Suddenly, the ancient devil puppet was summoned into Ning Fan's sleeve. Even though the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor was at the early Shedding Kong realm, his chi was slightly weaker than the ancient devil puppet. Since the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor insisted on picking a fight with him, Ning Fan did not mind completely destroying the Ghost Weapon sect. At the moment when Ning Fan took out the ancient devil puppet, the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor suddenly felt a sense of fear. It was as if the junior in front of him was hiding something dangerous that could endanger his life. If that was the case, the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor would not be afraid of Ning Fan. However, the next cold voice transmission made the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor's expression change drastically. His expression when he looked at Ning Fan was filled with deep fear. The voice transmission could only be heard by the Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor. However, the aura force of the voice transmission had reached the aura force of the Third Tribulation Immortal King. The person who transmitted the voice was obviously a Third Tribulation Immortal King. The Immortal King's tone was filled with anger. The reason for his anger was not because Ning Fan had killed the sect master of the Seven Evil sect and his plague cauldron, but because a mere cultivator of the Ghost Weapon sect dared to attack Ning Fan. If he was not mistaken, Ning Fan was that big shot. Qingui, how dare you provoke this person? You are simply courting death. If you don't want to live anymore, you can kill yourself. Don't drag me into this. Do you know who this person is? Do you know how terrifying his backing is? Do you know that if you offend this person, not only you, but also the 4 billion cultivators on the Een Moon Star, including me, will have their primordial spirits extracted and refined into the plague flag? You idiot! Why did I raise such an idiot like you? Even if I raise a pig, it will still be 100 times smarter than you. Lu Feng was almost exasperated. He was the master that the Seven Evil sect master mentioned. He was the Immortal King who was secretly hiding behind the Ghost Weapon sect. Yesterday, I updated until 4 a.m. My thoughts were blocked and I could only write 1,000 words. I really don't have the mood. I will now update yesterday's third update, excluding today's update. I will try my best to write 2 more updates today. Chapter 8:22. LV Feng was currently standing on an abandoned planet. This abandoned planet was extremely far away from the Een Moon planet, but with the strength of his divine sense, he could naturally see everything that was happening on the Een Moon planet. Even though Ning Fan had already hidden the Gu King token in the profound Een world, there was one thing that he did not know. Even if the parasite token was hidden in a dimensional realm, it could still be sensed. The premise of this was that the other party also had the parasite token. Lu Fan cursed at Qingui before he calmed down a little. He looked at the plague token in his hand and immediately sighed. On the plague token, there was an irreparable crack, which meant that he was an abandoned cultivator of the Southern Clan. That Seven Fiend sect master was one of the plague cauldrons that this old man had painstakingly found. It could help this old man recover a little of my cultivation base. Unfortunately, he died. If it was someone else who killed him, this old man would certainly not let them go. But if it was fellow Taoist Zhao Jian, this old man wouldn't dare to pursue this matter. However, this old man had never expected that fellow Taoist Zhao Jian, whom I met that day, was actually only at the peak of the Ghost Profound Realm. But it's also possible that this Ghost Profound Realm cultivation base was disguised by the innate spirit equipment. This old man still can't see through it completely. Regardless of his true cultivation base, the fact that he's a member of the Southern Clan alone is enough to prove that this old man can't afford to offend him. Among the 10 great secret clans, the Southern Clan is the most protective of their own. No one would interfere if the clansmen of the Southern Clan were to kill each other, but if an outsider were to make a move and harm a member of the Southern Clan would definitely retaliate with all their might. In the entire Eastern Heaven Immortal world, I'm afraid there isn't any power that can withstand the wrath of the 4 factions of the Southern Clan. Even the Godly Void Pavilion, the Slaughter Palace and the Formi sect cannot afford to provoke them. LV Feng couldn't help but shiver at the thought of how terrifying the southern tribe was. When he thought about it again, if it wasn't for him sending a voice transmission in time to stop old ancestor Ghost Soldier from acting foolishly, he might have already taken action against Ning Fan. Once he makes a move against Ning Fan, it would trigger the southern clan to take revenge on him. The 4 great emperors of the 4 clans would come out at the same time. LV Feng simply did not dare to imagine the consequences. Thinking of this, LV Feng's heart burned again, and he scolded the Ghost Soldier Patriarch through voice transmission again. Qin Gui, oh Qin Gui, I'm warning you. If you can't appease this person's anger and insist on offending him, then you don't have to wait for the person behind this person to kill you. This old man will be the first to strike and kill you. LV Feng's furious words were clearly heard by the Ghost Soldier Patriarch. At this moment, Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor was completely dumbfounded. He looked at Ning Fan with extreme shock. Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor couldn't imagine what Ning Fan's background was. Even the infamous Plague King, Lu Feng, was afraid of him. This kid is just a ghost profound realm cultivator. Even if the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor is standing behind him, it's absolutely impossible for the dignified Plague King to be so afraid. This LV Feng has always been notorious for killing the descendants of immortal emperors. When he becomes ruthless, he has even killed many disciples of the Divine Void Emperor. There is only one possibility for this person to instill fear in LV Feng. The backer behind this person was an existence that was even more terrifying than the Eastern Sky's various kings. It was an existence even stronger than the godly Void Pavilion. Could the force behind this person be a secret clan? As soon as he thought of this possibility, Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor's face immediately turned pale. He no longer had the demeanor of a senior expert. If Ning Fan was really a member of the secret clan, not only would Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor and LV Feng not dare to touch him, even the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperors would have to think twice if they wanted to touch him. In the 4 Heavens Immortal world, there were almost no cultivators who dared to touch a member of the secret clan. Only a crazy person like Sun Luo dared to invade the Dark Race and kill the Dark Race's immortal emperor. No one else had such courage. However, even Sun Luo was once besieged by a colossus like the Dark Race and was on the verge of death. That year, the Dark Race's immortal emperor was killed by Sun Luo. His army then arrived at the godly Void Pavilion. Even Xiang Bozi had no choice but to compromise and make a great sacrifice to appease the Dark Race's anger and save Sun Luo's life. Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor did not know about these secrets, but it did not hinder his reverence towards the secret clan. It can't be wrong. The meaning of Plague King's words was clearly hinting to me that this kid is a member of the secret clan. This person isn't someone I, a mere Shikong, can afford to offend. The gloomy expression on his ugly face disappeared. He turned to Ning Fan and squeezed out an ugly smile. The way he looked at Ning Fan was no longer as gloomy as before. Instead, his expression was amiable, as if he was looking at a close friend that he had not seen for many years. He cupped his fists and said politely, "Little friend, I admire your courage. What I said just now was just to test your courage. I don't really want to do anything to you. I hope you won't misunderstand me." Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor was eccentric and unruly. He was ruthless and vicious. In the entire Eastern Heaven, the only cultivators who could make him treat politely were the ancient monsters. According to his personality, it was impossible for him to be polite to a Ghost Profound Realm Junior. Moreover, this Ghost Profound Realm Junior was the murderer who killed the 14th military leader. All the cultivators on the scene, be it the cultivators who came to seek treasures or the cultivators of the Ghost Soldier sect, were all in disbelief when they saw the scene. Even Ning Fan's eyes darkened. When he looked at Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor again, his eyes were filled with a hint of probing. This man's words are false. The killing intent he showed me just now was definitely not a test. He really wanted to kill me. However, the friendly intention he showed now doesn't seem to be a pretense either. It seems like something has changed his decision in an instant. Is it because this man noticed that I have a shedding void puppet with me? Or is there something that I don't know about happening to this man? Ning Fan's mind was racing and his brows were tightly knitted. Suddenly his expression changed. He felt a trace of response from the profound Yin world. That response came from the Gu King token. With his spirit sense, he couldn't detect LV Feng, who was extremely far away from the Yin moon star. However, at this moment, the Gu King token vaguely sensed the existence of the plague token on LV Feng's body. It's LV Feng. Could it be? All of a sudden, countless guesses emerged in Ning Fan's mind. Some of the doubts he had before seemed to have been answered. However, what he didn't expect was that even if he put the Gu King token into the profound Yin world, it still couldn't block the connection between the tokens. If that was the case, his true identity had most likely been exposed to LV Feng. This might be a big trouble. What are you guys still doing in my ghost weapon sect? My disciples are all dead. There are no more 14 weapon masters here. No one will refine magic treasures for you. All of you can leave now. Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor's eyes suddenly turned sharp and shouted coldly at the 7-second step cultivators who were watching the scene. Then he exerted his shedding void spirit force, causing the 5 life immortal realm cultivators to spurt out blood and retreat. Even the 2 Duzhen cultivators' faces turned red. Their chi and blood flowed in reverse and their expressions were filled with panic. Under the shock and fear, the 7 of them naturally didn't dare to stay any longer. They hurriedly flew away from the Yin moon star. Upon seeing that, Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor let out a cold harumph and released his aura force, causing the disciples who were guarding the mountain to spurt out blood crazily. Their faces were filled with terror. Everyone, go back and cultivate. Within 3 months, none of you are allowed to step out of your cave residence. You are not allowed to mention what happened today again. Yes. All the disciples hurried back to their own cave residences. None of them dared to stay any longer. Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor was not a kind person in the first place. He would not be polite to any juniors and he had always been unscrupulous in his actions. However, Ning Fan was just an exception. If Lu Feng hadn't arrived, Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor would have already attacked Ning Fan. Senior, do you have something to tell me by chasing everyone away? Ning Fan asked with an indifferent tone. The reason why I chased everyone away was because I wanted to spend some time alone with little friend and clear up some misunderstandings. These 14 weapon masters are my disciples in name. However, in reality, they are just the vessels that I use to nurture my magic treasures. Their lives will be devoured by my magic treasures sooner or later. Therefore, I don't have any dissatisfaction when little friend kills them. Even if you use up the vessels, you can still find more, can't you? However, about the 14 blood goo pearls, can little friend? As he said that, Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor suddenly wore an expectant look, hoping that Ning Fan would return the 14 pearls. Just like what he had said, he did not value the lives of his 14 disciples. Even if Ning Fan did not take action, those 14 people would be killed by Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor sooner or later and used to refine the pearls. Ning Fan already knew about this. From the moment he saw through the secrets of the 14 weapon masters, he knew how cold-blooded and heartless Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor was to his disciples. This was also the reason why Ning Fan despised Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor the most. This person was unworthy of being his master. As for the blood goo pearl, Ning Fan did not really value it. From his point of view, the blood goo pearl was not a magic treasure. It was clearly a type of goo that devoured one's vitality. The owner of the blood goo pearl could borrow the power of the pearl to slightly increase their cultivation base. However, they would need to provide their flesh and primordial spirit for the pearl to devour. When the owner dies, the pearl could still find another owner and continue to absorb the essence of the flesh and blood of others. Swallowing this pearl would mean walking towards death step by step. Ning Fan naturally would not use such a magic treasure with great disadvantages. However, it would not be easy for him to return the blood goo pearl. Before stepping into Ghost Weapon Sect, Ning Fan was still considerate of the friendship between Luo clan and Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor. However, the current him no longer had any good impression of Ghost Weapon Sect. Luo Shi had once vaguely told me that there is an immortal king standing behind Ghost Weapon Sect. Now, it seems like that immortal king is most likely Lu Feng. Before I killed the sect master of the Seven Fiends sect, he seemed to be cultivating a technique. I did not pay much attention to it at that time. Now that I think about it, that technique seems to be the plague technique. This sect master of the Seven Fiends sect has a low cultivation base, but he is highly valued by Ghost Weapon sect. It is highly possible that this person has some kind of relationship with Lu Feng. The drastic change in the attitude of Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor towards me from arrogance to respect is probably caused by Lu Feng. Lu Feng feared me because he thought that I was a cultivator of the Southern Clan. In the past, I was unwilling to pretend to be a cultivator of the Southern Clan because I was afraid of attracting trouble. However, now that my true identity has been seen through by Lu Feng and I am recognized as a cultivator of the Southern Clan, I can only continue to pretend to be a cultivator of the Southern Clan. If Lu Feng finds out that I am not a member of the Southern Clan, I'm afraid he will be the first person to settle old scores with me. Ning Fan's thoughts raced and he finally made up his mind. I wonder if little friend can return the blood goo bead to me? Ghost Weapon Old Ancestor's expression was extremely respectful. There was no trace of the dignity of Old Ancestor Shikong at all. If I want the blood goo bead back, don't I have to pay a price? Ning Fan's tone was extremely indifferent. However, when his words fell into the ears of Old Ancestor Gui Xian, he seemed to be dissatisfied. Fear immediately filled the eyes of Old Ancestor Gui Xian. He thought to himself that it was over. Those 14 idiotic vessels of his had really offended Ning Fan. Ning Fan was going to extort money from him. Only a cultivator of the secret race would have the guts to extort money from him with his cultivation base. Truth be told, Old Ancestor Gui Xian did not care whether he wanted the blood goo bead back or not. However, he could see that Ning Fan's heart was filled with anger. If he does not quell this anger, not to mention the Southern Clan behind Ning Fan, even Lu Feng would not spare him. My Ghost Weapon sect has offended little friend first. It's only natural for us to pay the price. I wonder what little friend wants? Old Ancestor Gui Xian asked with an apologetic smile. That will depend on your sincerity. Ning Fan smiled meaningfully. Sincerity? Not a problem. Not a problem. Little friend, take this item. You can see my sincerity. Old Ancestor Gui Xian pondered for a moment and made up his mind. He directly untied the storage pouch on his waist and handed it to Ning Fan generously. Ning Fan scanned the storage pouch with his spirit sense. There were hundreds of billions of Dao crystals inside. There were also quite a number of magic treasures with high grades. The lowest grade of these magic treasures were immortal treasures. A few of them were acquired immortal treasures. Among them, there were even a few acquired immortal treasures that had reached the 5th Nirvana realm. 5th Nirvana acquired immortal treasures were commonly used by early Shikong realm cultivators. Is this sincerity enough? Ning Fan asked with a faint smile. When Old Ancestor Gui Xian saw Ning Fan's smile, he immediately felt terrified. How is this a smile? This is dissatisfaction. Is it not enough? Sure enough, all the cultivators of the secret races have their eyes on the top of their heads. Putting aside the Dao crystals, the magic treasures in this storage pouch are something that even old monster Shikong realm cultivators would be tempted by. However, he doesn't care about them at all. Are all the cultivators of the secret races like this? Old Ancestor Gui Xian gritted his teeth and pondered for a moment. Then he suddenly touched his glabella. Immediately, a cloud of purple mist flew out from his glabella. When he pointed his finger at it, that cloud of purple mist immediately floated towards Ning Fan. Little friend, do you recognize this item? Old Ancestor Gui Xian hid his pained expression and asked with a smile. Heavenly Dao Violet Qi, huh? Of course, I recognize it. Ning Fan grabbed the cloud of purple mist. His expression was still as calm as an ancient well, but his heart was already moved. In the past, Ning Fan had only heard of the Heavenly Dao Violet Qi. Today, he finally got to see it with his own eyes. Every time the Heavenly Dao evolved for tens of thousands of years, a trace of purple qi would be born between heaven and earth. The source of the purple qi determined that this item was extremely rare. This item was often used by the cultivators above Shikong to nurture their Dao soldiers. It could greatly increase the power of their Dao soldiers. A trace of purple qi could be sold for around 300 billion Dao crystals. Moreover, most of them were priceless. If an ordinary Shikong cultivator uses 2 or 3 traces of purple qi, he or she would be invincible at the same level as him or her with just the power of the Dao soldiers. There was no need for divine abilities. As a famous refinement expert of his generation, it was not strange for old ancestor Gui Xian to possess a trace of purple qi. What do you think, little friend? Can this heavenly Dao violet qi see my sincerity? Seeing that Ning Fan recognized this item, old ancestor Gui Xian immediately heaved a sigh of relief. This heavenly Dao violet qi was extremely precious. Even he was reluctant to use it. Now that he had to take out a gift to apologize to Ning Fan, his heart naturally ached. However, if it could make up for his previous mistake and ease the relationship between him and Ning Fan, a mere trace of heavenly Dao violet qi was not a big deal. Anyway, I still have 3 traces of purple qi with me. These are all the treasures that I have accumulated after refining magic treasures for others in my entire life. The items in my storage pouch are nothing compared to them. Old ancestor Gui Xian thought. The value of this item is naturally much higher than the 14 acquired pearls. Since Senior has given me this item, I'm very willing to return the blood goo pearls. Hearing Ning Fan's words, which seemed to have the intention of writing off all the grudges between them, old ancestor Gui Xian was immediately overjoyed. However, before he could feel happy for a moment, Ning Fan's next words immediately made him unable to smile anymore. But, Senior, are you only going to give me 1 trace of purple qi? Ning Fan asked with a smile. A ray of green light quietly flashed across his eyes. No one noticed it. With just a glance, he could see that there were 3 other traces of heavenly Dao violet qi in old ancestor Gui Xian's body. Little friend, you must be joking. The heavenly Dao violet qi is a precious item. It's already rare for me to have 1 trace. I definitely don't have a second trace. Before old ancestor Gui Xian could finish his words, he was already interrupted by Ning Fan. Wrong. There are still 3 traces of purple qi in your body. Ning Fan's eyes suddenly turned serious. A ray of green light flashed. Immediately, an invisible force of the great Dao rushed towards old ancestor Gui Xian. At this moment, old ancestor Gui Xian did not feel uncomfortable at all. He only felt that his whole body was seen through by Ning Fan. It should be extremely absurd for a dignified old monster Shikong to be seen through by a profound ghost realm cultivator with just a glance. However, it had already happened. Old ancestor Gui Xian had no choice but to believe that everything was the truth. Ning Fan had revealed the number of purple qi in his body. How could it not be the truth? Moreover, at this moment, Ning Fan had an ethereal temperament that was as ethereal as the Dao. Old ancestor Gui Xian felt that the person standing in front of him was not a person but the myriad of Daos in the heavens. Give me the remaining 3 traces of purple qi and the grudge between me and your ghost weapon sect will be written off. Otherwise, all right. The 3 traces of purple qi are all yours. Without needing any threat from Ning Fan, old ancestor Gui Xian had already touched his glabella and took out the other 3 traces of purple qi and handed them to Ning Fan. His reverence towards the 10 great secret clans rose once again. He's just a mere profound ghost realm cultivator. Just because he comes from one of the secret clans, he already possesses such abilities. The 10 great secret clans are indeed not something that ordinary people like us can afford to offend. Far away, on the abandoned star, LV Wen's face was filled with disbelief when he saw Ning Fan's eyes flashing with green light. The unity of heaven and man. That green light is definitely the unity of heaven and man. Could it be that fellow Taoist Zhao Jian was the one who triggered the heaven-man phenomenon in the Eastern Sea Star region that day? If that's the case, it's certainly impossible for him to be some profound ghost realm cultivator. He's definitely an ancient cultivator. Moreover, he's one of the ancient cultivators with peerless potential in the Southern clan. His profound ghost realm cultivation base is definitely fake. Even in our southern clan, there's less than 1 in 10 ancient cultivators who can comprehend the unity of heaven and man. As for profound ghost realm cultivators, it's totally impossible. Since he hid his cultivation base and snuck into the Eastern Sea Star region, he must be plotting something big. Amazing! Amazing! Fellow Taoist Zhao Jian's cultivation base is hidden so well. Let alone me, I'm afraid even the 2 divine void emperors can't see through his cultivation base. I wonder what fellow Taoist Zhao is planning to do in the Eastern Sea Star region. It must be a top-secret mission that the old monsters in the clan gave him. If I can help him in the process of carrying out his mission, he will certainly put in a good word for me in front of the sovereign emperors when he returns to the southern clan in the future. Sure enough, my divination was not wrong. This Zhao Jian is the person who is destined to be my benefactor. Chapter 8:23. In the end, Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor agreed to help Ning Fan forge a star-defying devil armor. It was no longer for the sake of the Luo clan but for the sake of Ning Fan's powerful background. He would also do his best to forge a perfect set of armor for Ning Fan. Refining a magic armor was not something that could be completed overnight. According to the Ghost Soldier Patriarch's experience, it would take at least 10 years to successfully refine this magic armor. However, when Ning Fan casually asked if it could be completed before the grave competition, the old man's expression changed. Ghost Soldier Patriarch immediately swore that if he used the Immolate Mystic technique, he would be able to refine the star-defying fiend armor within 2 years. Burning Mystic technique, burning the primordial spirit of a refiner to shorten the time needed to fuse and form the magical treasure. In order to please me, this Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor has spared no effort. All of this is because he thinks that I'm a cultivator of a secret race, but he doesn't know that everything he believes is false, and I can't let him know the truth. Ning Fan left the Een Moon Star and rushed towards the divine tomb. Inwardly, he sighed with emotion. This southern tribe cultivator would most likely have to continue acting. A single lie would require countless more lies to make up for it. As long as the person he was deceiving was an enemy like the Ghost Soldier Old Ancestor, he would have a clear conscience. In a state of panic, Ning Fan recalled the teachings of the old monster in the past, recalling all the things that happened in the past. That year, his cultivation base was still low and he called himself Black Devil, deceiving the people of Yu country. Demons must know how to deceive, otherwise they would not be able to survive in this world. If you want to deceive others, you must first deceive yourself. Either he subdues the world with his might, or he deceives the world. After leaving the Een Moon Star, Ning Fan rushed all the way to the divine tomb. He had always felt that there was a shadow following him. According to the Gu token in the profound Een world, that person should be LV1. After flying a certain distance away from the Een Moon Star, Ning Fan found an abandoned star and landed on it. A green light flashed in his eyes. The aura of the great path between heaven and earth immediately became especially sensitive. Stepping on the barren land, Ning Fan lifted his head to look at the boundless void and said indifferently to a certain uninhabited place. Fellow Taoist Lu has been following us all the way. What can I do for you? Hee. Fellow Taoist Zhao's keen senses are actually able to see through my hiding spot. This is not information that can be found out through the Gu token. A crack was immediately torn open in the void, and a fat old man walked out from it. The old man was wearing a mink fur hat. As soon as he landed on the ground, he immediately waddled over like a comical roly-poly doll. His slightly squinted smiling eyes seemed kind, but there was also a bit of gloominess that seeped into his bones, reminding others that he was not a good person. Who else could it be other than LV Feng? There's no need to call me fellow Taoist Zhao. Let me reintroduce myself. My surname is Ning and my name is Fan. Ning means Ning and Fan means unwilling to give up the mortal world. Ning Fan's tone remained indifferent. LV Feng was stunned for a moment. Then he gave Ning Fan a meaningful smile and said, I understand. The mission required him to keep his identity a secret, right? Ning Fan. Ning Fan. Fellow Taoist Ning, we haven't seen each other for 10 years, but fellow Taoist is still as elegant as ever. Are you really Gui Xian? Why do I feel that it doesn't seem like it? I am indeed a ghost mystic cultivator. I ask fellow Taoist Lu not to make wild guesses. Yes. Gui Xian, it was Gui Xian. Understood. I understand. However, fellow Taoist's method of concealing your cultivation base is really brilliant. LV Feng looked at Ning Fan with admiration. This admiration came from the bottom of his heart. This time, Ning Fan did not summon his ghost face. With his cultivation base of the third eternal tribulation, he could vaguely tell that Ning Fan was a ghost mystic from such a close distance. However, LV Feng firmly believed that Ning Fan was an eternal cultivator and this ghost mystic was just a disguise. After all, it was impossible for a ghost mystic cultivator to refine innate spiritual equipment or attain the unity of heaven and man. This was an indisputable fact. The more he could not see through Ning Fan's eternal ancient realm cultivation base, the more LV Feng admired him. Ning Fan somewhat admired LV Feng's imagination. He did not need to say anything, and this man was able to make all the unreasonable things in his mind into something reasonable. It's just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it, fellow Taoist. LV Feng chuckled. Then he took out another exquisite storage pouch and passed it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned it with his spirit sense. It was another 100 billion Tao crystals. This was really not a small matter. Take it. Fellow Taoist, you must accept it. If you don't accept it, then you're looking down on me, Lu Feng. Lu Feng deliberately kept a straight face, yet the smile on the corners of his mouth didn't diminish, and his expression was just right. If that's the case, I'll accept it. May I know why fellow Taoist has come looking for me today? Fellow Taoist Zhao, no, fellow Taoist Ning. Fellow Taoist Ning, have you encountered any difficulties during your missions recently? Do you need my help? If there's anything you need, please tell me directly. Don't stand on ceremony with me. Naturally, I'm not doubting fellow Taoist's ability to carry out the task. It's just that the matter fellow Taoist is plotting is of great importance, and there are many things that are inconvenient for you to appear directly, and it's also inconvenient for you to reveal your true cultivation. If you have my help, I'm sure it can save you a lot of trouble. Lu Feng's face was filled with sincerity. As long as Ning Fan gives the order, he would be willing to risk his life for it. Fellow Taoist Lu really wants to help me? Ning Fan's eyes flickered. This LV Feng was an immortal king fighter who had delivered himself to their doorstep. Who knew he might be of some use in many places? Of course. Fellow Taoist Ning, do you need me to do something for you? Lu Feng immediately said with joy after hearing Ning Fan's words. Not at the moment. However, if I encounter any difficulties, I will certainly take the initiative to ask for fellow Taoist's help. That's good. That's good. If fellow Taoist needs anything, I will certainly do my best to help you. LV Feng said confidently. All of a sudden, he seemed to have thought of something and his expression became hesitant. After pondering for a while, he let out a sigh and did not ask the question. His expression was not fake. Fellow Taoist Lu, if you have something to say, feel free to speak your mind. I have a presumptuous request. I hope fellow Taoist can help me take a look. Recently, I've made some mistakes in my cultivation. Due to a moment of carelessness, I've fallen from the fourth tribulation to the third tribulation. I hope fellow Taoist can help me take a look and see if it's possible for me to recover my cultivation base. I've already devoured a few plague cauldrons, but I couldn't improve my cultivation base at all. LV Feng said awkwardly. Almost no one knew that his cultivation base had been destroyed by Sun Luo. He was also too embarrassed to tell others about it. He had no choice. He was a person who cared a lot about his reputation. It was not appropriate for him to spread such a shameful thing around. The reason why he lied and said that he had made a mistake in his cultivation was because he wanted Ning Fan to help him take a look at why he could not recover his cultivation base after devouring the plague cauldrons. If he did not know that Ning Fan had comprehended the unity of heaven and man, perhaps he would not have asked about it. Since Ning Fan was a cultivator who had comprehended the unity of heaven and man, his comprehension ability was naturally extremely high. Who knows, he might be able to give him some pointers. Fellow Taoist, you can't recover your cultivation base after devouring the plague cauldrons. So you want me to take a look at what went wrong? Is fellow Taoist willing to help me? LV Feng asked earnestly. Ning Fan wore a thoughtful expression as if he was considering it. Inwardly, however, he was smiling bitterly. Since he had comprehended the unity of heaven and man, his comprehension ability was naturally extremely high. Occasionally, he might have some Tao insights which were beyond the reach of even the ancient monsters. However, in terms of cultivation experience, he was definitely not comparable to LV Feng, who was an ancient monster who had lived for tens of millions of years. The two words eternity referred to the fact that one must go through the ages. Some cultivation experiences could not be understood just by being smart. One must go through a long period of time in order to understand them. Ning Fan was very self-aware. He knew that he did not have the qualifications to guide LV Feng in his cultivation at all. However, after thinking about it carefully, LV Feng did not seem to want him to teach him how to cultivate in a rigid manner. Instead, he just wanted Ning Fan to help him find out what the problem was in his cultivation. If it's just this kind of thing, Ning Fan might be able to help LV Feng discover some problems with his eyesight, which was the unity of heaven and man. As expected, fellow Taoist still isn't willing to help me. LV Feng sighed in disappointment. Ning Fan pondered for a while and finally said, I can help you take a look. However, I can't guarantee that I can definitely help you find out the root of your problem. It doesn't matter. Fellow Taoist is a cultivator who has comprehended the unity of heaven and man. If you can't find out the root of my problem, I don't think there are many people who can. LV Feng was very confident in Ning Fan. Relax your entire body. Don't resist the power of my medicine soul. Ning Fan said indifferently. At the next moment, he released the power of his five-colored medicine soul and sent it into LV Feng's body to carefully examine his condition. After hearing Ning Fan's words, LV Feng naturally did not dare to move. However, he was very surprised by the power of Ning Fan's medicine soul. He was not surprised by the grade of his mid-7th revolution medicine soul. There was no need for him to boast about such a grade in the four heavens. What surprised him was that Ning Fan also possessed the legendary five-colored medicine soul. In the past, I only knew that there was a leading disciple of the medicine sect in the four heavens who possessed a five-colored medicine soul that countless pill refinement masters were envious of. I didn't expect that fellow Taoist would also possess this kind of diluted medicine soul power. Sure enough, fellow Taoist is not an ordinary person. However, the grade of your medicine soul is a little low. I suppose fellow Taoist is busy with cultivation and you probably don't want to divert your attention to cultivating pill refinement. It's really a pity. If fellow Taoist is willing to spend a few million years to cultivate pill refinement, with your innate potential, you will most likely have a high attainment in the Tao of pill. LV Feng sighed regretfully. After hearing LV Feng's words, Ning Fan could only smile bitterly. It was not that he did not want to cultivate pill refinement. It was just that he did not have the time to do so at all. His cultivation career had only lasted for a short 200 years. His bone age was also less than 1,000 years. Where could he find a few million years to cultivate pill refinement? After clearing the distracting thoughts in his mind, Ning Fan carefully examined LV Feng's injuries. Without a doubt, those injuries were caused by Sin Luo. There was still some residual force of the dark light finger in LV Feng's body. Sin Luo had deliberately left this force behind. It was as if the residual poison had accumulated in his body, preventing LV Feng from recovering his cultivation base by devouring the plague cauldron. However, this force did not stop LV Feng from using other methods to return to the fourth tribulation of the eternal era. Sure enough, I didn't guess wrongly that day. Sen Luo had intentionally crippled LV Feng's cultivation base, and it was done with good intentions. Even though LV Feng's cultivation base had dropped, his strength did not decrease. Even though the quantity of his magic power has decreased, it has become more solid and its quality is far better than before. In that case, it seems like Sun Luo's force is just to restrict LV Feng from cultivating by devouring the plague cauldron in the past. In other words, LV Feng's mistake lies in devouring the plague cauldron itself. Of course, he knew what a plague cauldron was. It was a special cauldron used by cultivators who cultivated the plague technique. Devil cultivators who cultivated dual cultivation could increase their cultivation base by plucking cultivators of the opposite sex, while cultivators who cultivated the plague technique could create and devour the plague cauldron to increase their cultivation base. He did not know much about the cultivation of the plague technique. However, he could vaguely tell that increasing one's cultivation base by devouring the plague cauldron would cause one's cultivation base to be superficial and cause countless hidden dangers. If I have been relying on plucking human cauldrons to increase my cultivation base throughout my cultivation, I'm sure my magic power would also be superficial and I would encounter hidden dangers. Fortunately, plucking human cauldrons for cultivation is just one of the methods and not everything. However, for LV Feng, it seems like devouring the plague cauldron is everything. With the similarities between the dual cultivation technique and the plague technique, Ning Fan gradually gained enlightenment. However, he could not guarantee that this enlightenment would be correct. Hence, he could only let LV Feng try it himself. Ning Fan remained silent. His facial expression kept changing. Time passed by minutes and seconds. Gradually, LV Feng's heart began to feel nervous. Could it be that my cultivation base can no longer return to the fourth tribulation realm? If it's fellow Taoist, please tell me frankly. I can accept it. LV Feng's expression was calm as if he was ready to die. After a while, he said resentfully, "My injuries are all because of that bastard." Suddenly, LV Feng realized that he had made a slip of the tongue. He quickly tried to cover it up. "No, it's not that bastard's fault. My injuries are caused by the backlash of my own cultivation. Fellow Taoist, you don't need to hide it. I can naturally see the cause of your injuries. You were injured by someone. The person who injured you must have done it with just a finger." Ning Fan shook his head and exposed LV Feng's lie. As soon as he heard Ning Fan's words, LV Feng's face immediately revealed a look of surprise. He stuttered, "Fellow Taoist, you have really good eyesight. You can actually see that I was injured by the power of a finger. How can I not see that? The person who injured you should be the dark light finger. However, I haven't learned this finger technique and I can't help you resolve it." Ning Fan recalled Sun Luo's appearance when he used the dark light finger every day. He gently lifted his finger and pointed it at the air. Black light condensed between his fingers and then dissipated. That finger looked extremely similar to the dark light finger. However, it was not able to grasp the essence of the technique. "Fellow Taoist, you're really amazing. You actually knew that I was injured by the dark light finger. Moreover, you can even display a little of it. That's the ultimate technique of the dark race." LV Feng's expression gradually became more shocked. "The reason why you couldn't improve your cultivation base after devouring the plague cauldron must be the remaining force of the finger in your body. If I get rid of the remaining force, I can continue devouring the plague cauldron to cultivate, right?" LV Feng immediately said excitedly, "I don't suggest you to get rid of the force. The person who planted the force in your body probably doesn't have any evil intentions." Ning Fan sighed in disappointment. Someone like Sun Luo actually had a kind heart. Yet, he did not say anything when he did something good. He even disdained to explain when he injured LV Feng. It really matched Sun Luo's personality. How is that possible? The person who planted the force in my body is that lunatic. He destroyed my cultivation base. How is it possible that he doesn't have any evil intentions? LV Feng snorted coldly. Ning Fan did not want to argue with him on this matter. He just sighed and said, "From today onwards, don't use the plague cauldron to cultivate anymore. You should change to another cultivation method to comprehend by analogy. Perhaps, you might obtain some unexpected gains. This is my advice to you. I'll give this to you. Farewell." As soon as Ning Fan finished speaking, he took out a jade slip. He scanned it with his spirit sense and engraved something on it. Then, he turned around and left without saying anything else. That was all he could give LV Feng. Besides, the guidance he gave LV Feng was based on what he saw with his own eyes when LV Feng was injured. LV Feng stood alone on the spot and watched Ning Fan leave. He held the jade slip that Ning Fan gave him in his hand. After scanning the contents of the jade slip with his spirit sense, LV Feng's face immediately showed a strange expression. This jade slip actually recorded the experience of a low-level life immortal realm cultivator who cultivated the dual cultivation technique. What does fellow Taoist Ning mean by giving me the cultivation experience of the dual cultivation technique? Is he hinting me to give up devouring the plague cauldron and change to the cultivation path of plucking human cauldrons? That shouldn't be the case. As a cultivator of my southern clan, fellow Taoist Ning should know that the plague technique I cultivate requires me to guard my primordial yang and not to get close to women. LV Feng pondered for a while and looked at the jade slip again. Suddenly he understood something. Comprehend by analogy, comprehend by analogy. Could it be that fellow Taoist Ning is trying to remind me that I can use the dual cultivation technique as a reference to cultivate the plague technique? Devil cultivators who cultivate in the dual cultivation technique are usually weak. It's very difficult for them to reach the peak of the second step. This is because they usually only rely on plucking human cauldrons to increase their cultivation base. Their magic power is usually superficial and their combat strength is naturally low. However, the person recorded in the jade slip not only plucked human cauldrons but also cultivated countless cultivation methods at the same time. Even though he is also a devil cultivator who cultivates in the dual cultivation technique, he is extremely strong. I've been cultivating like a mad devil throughout my life. I've turned countless people into plague cauldrons and devoured them. That's why I have my current cultivation base. Naturally, my magic power is also a little superficial. After my cultivation base dropped this time, my magic power seems to have become more solid. Is this what the saying, fortune and misfortune depend on each other, means? Since I can't devour the plague cauldrons, I might as well give up and find other methods to increase my cultivation base. Is this the path I should take? Huff LV Feng suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. The inner demons that had accumulated in his heart due to the drop of his cultivation base had all disappeared at this moment. He had no idea whether Ning Fan had successfully guided him or not. However, Ning Fan's words had rekindled his hope of cultivating to the fourth tribulation. The inner demons in his heart had been completely wiped out. Fellow Taoist Ning, you're indeed the benefactor in my life. If I can cultivate to the fourth tribulation of the eternal era again, I will certainly thank you properly. LV Feng let out a hearty laugh. He looked deeply at the direction where Ning Fan had left. Then, with a leap, he left in another direction. He could naturally tell that Ning Fan was going to the divine tomb. As for what Ning Fan was going to do there, he would not ask. Of course, if Ning Fan asks him for help, he would do his best to help him. In the past, it was because he wanted to please Ning Fan in exchange for a good word. Now, however, he felt gratitude. Chapter 8:24. There were only 2 years left before the start of the competition. At the end of the market on the first level of the Divine Tomb, the names of all the tomb guards had been changed to the names of the current batch of tomb guards. There were a total of 4,175 tomb guards in this year's competition. 8 years had passed and many of them had obtained a lot of tomb merit points in the Divine Tomb. Cultivators would gather under the tombstones from time to time to watch the changes of the names on the tombstones. To the tomb guards, the tomb palaces from the 4th to the 6th level were the best places for cultivation. To the tomb guards, apart from obtaining cultivation methods, crystals, relics, and other rewards, they would also obtain a certain amount of tomb merit points which would be recorded in the tombstone token. The tomb merit points had no other use other than to measure the strength of the tomb guards. A white-robed young man quietly appeared in the crowd under the tombstone and looked at the names on the tombstone. His appearance was soundless, and not many cultivators noticed his arrival. The person who ranked first was still Jun Zhangdong. He had already obtained 4.7 million tomb merit points this year. The person who ranked second had also obtained 3 million tomb merit points. Even the person who ranked 100 would have at least 10,000 tomb merit points. As for his tomb merit points, it was still 0. All of this was related to his 8 years of seclusion and his absence from the divine tomb. This white-robed young man was really Ning Fan, who had just arrived at the divine tomb. There were a few cultivators beside Ning Fan who were discussing this year's competition. The person who obtained first place in the previous competition couldn't participate in this year's competition due to his bone age exceeding the limit. I wonder who will obtain first place in this year's competition. In my opinion, the Shadowbind sect will probably obtain first place this year. An elderly life immortal realm cultivator said to a cultivator beside him, "Shadowbind sect? Fellow Taoist, are you referring to the Shadow Immortal Monarch Qin Lian? Senior Qin Lian indeed has a great chance to obtain first place. After all, his cultivation base has already broken through the mid-true crossing realm. In the previous competition, he was ranked among the top 3. I think the person who obtained first place in this competition will probably be the disciple of the Pavilion of Ancestors, Su Dao. This person has already been in the intermediate stage of the crossing truth realm for tens of thousands of years. Moreover, he has obtained the true inheritance of great sovereign Shin Kong. His aptitude is enough to be ranked in the top 3 among the 300 disciples of great sovereign Shin Kong. The word Dao is the name that great sovereign Shin Kong personally bestowed upon him because of his praise for his aptitude. I think Bone Immortal Monarch has the highest chance of winning. It was just an accident that he lost in the last competition. How about Fairy Yu Han, the disciple of the Void sect? Her moon transformation technique has already reached the 9th realm. Sounds of discussion entered Ning Fan's ears. Gradually, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with determination. He would not give the first place to anyone. 2 more years. With a leap, he turned into a beam of light and went straight to the lower level of the tomb of the God of Sin. He only had one purpose in coming to the God of Tomb, which was to enter the last 3 levels of the God of Tomb with the Great Void token to search for the ancient Chaos inheritance. In the first 3 levels, he didn't stop at all and headed straight for the 4th level. The oval light gate that led to the 4th level had a trace of great sovereign Shin Kong's spirit sense. Only divine void realm cultivators could enter it. However, when Ning Fan took out the grave guarding token and cast a magic seal on it, the oval light gate in front of him immediately trembled slightly. He then took a step forward and entered the 4th level of the God of Tomb through the light gate. The 4th level was a few times bigger than the 3rd level. However, there were only 3,000 tombs on this level. Among them, there were 200 heavenly tombs and 800 earth tombs. The rest were human tombs that could be used for secluded cultivation. As soon as he entered this level, Ning Fan immediately spread out his spirit sense. In this level, almost all of the heavenly tombs were in a dormant state. Outside the earth tombs, there were occasionally many divine void realm disciples or tomb guardians who paid the sect contribution points or Dao crystals to enter the tombs. Ning Fan naturally did not want to stay in this level for long. After withdrawing his spirit sense, he immediately flew towards the teleportation gate that led to the 5th level. However, what he did not expect was that no matter how hard he tried to activate the grave guarding token, the teleportation gate only emitted a rumbling sound. It did not teleport him to the 5th level of the God of Tomb. Outside this teleportation gate, there was a massive red cloud. An early true crossing realm old man with a red face was sitting on top of the cloud. Hearing the rumbling sound coming from the teleportation gate, the red-faced old man narrowed his eyes and asked Ning Fan with a frown, "Are you the tomb guardian of this batch?" "Yes." Ning Fan gave the old man a deep look and answered, "You don't have a divine void realm disciple token?" The old man asked again, "How much are the grave merit points?" "I don't have any grave merit points. If you only have a grave guarding token, you won't be qualified to enter the 5th level if your grave merit points are less than 100,000. Hasn't anyone told you about this before? You can leave now. After you accumulate enough grave merit points in the first 4 levels, come back here to activate the teleportation gate." The old man closed his eyes in displeasure. His attitude was arrogant and he no longer cared about Ning Fan. He was one of the 480 elders of the godly void pavilion. Even though the ranking of the elders was lower, he was still considered to have a high status. Moreover, he had a cultivation base of the true crossing realm. Today, he was the guardian elder of this place. In his eyes, Ning Fan was just a ghost profound realm cultivator. He was just a junior. Thus, he naturally disdained to talk nonsense with Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not care about the old man's attitude. He looked at the grave guarding token in his hand and frowned slightly. As soon as he performed the incantation gesture, his name and grave merit points immediately appeared on the back of the token. His grave merit points were still 0. According to what the red-faced old man said, without 100,000 grave merit points, one would not be able to enter the 5th level of the divine tomb. This is really troublesome. In that case, I must accumulate enough grave merit points in this 4th level before I can enter the next level. Ning Fan's body swayed and immediately turned into a ray of light, directly flying towards one of the heavenly tombs in the 4th level. According to what Ning Fan knew, in the 4th level, one could obtain around 100 grave merit points by clearing an earth tomb. As for clearing a heavenly tomb, one could obtain 10,000 or even tens of thousands of grave merit points. Since he must accumulate 100,000 grave merit points, he might as well go and conquer a few heavenly tombs. Sensing the direction where Ning Fan was flying towards, the red-faced old man immediately opened his eyes. At first, he was slightly surprised. Then, he let out a cold harumph and said disdainfully, "He actually wants to challenge the heavenly tombs? With his peak ghost profound realm cultivation base? Could it be that this young man has gone crazy thinking about grave merit points? Even I was once defeated by the illusion of the Tomb Lord. How can this young man succeed in challenging the tombs?" The 4th level of the Divine Tomb, the Purple Lightning Heavenly Tomb. There were originally 200 heavenly tombs in the 4th level. Currently, most of them were in a dormant state. Only the last few heavenly tombs were still active and could still be opened. The remaining few heavenly tombs were also the most difficult ones in the 4th level. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for them to remain unconquered until today. In order to open the Purple Lightning Heavenly Tomb, each person had to pay 1 million Dao crystals, and the cultivation base limit was early true crossing realm. At the moment, 170 to 80 cultivators had gathered outside the Purple Lightning Tomb. They were divided into 4 groups, and each of them was sitting on the ground in meditation. Some of the 4 groups of cultivators were busy recovering their magic power, while some were busy treating their injuries. Most of these cultivators were tomb guards. There were also some who were not tomb guards but cultivators of the godly void pavilion. Each of the 4 groups had gathered 40 to 50 life immortal realm cultivators and challenged the Purple Lightning Tomb one after another. All 4 groups of cultivators had failed the challenge 4 times. Half of the cultivators were injured during the challenge. There were even a few life immortal realm cultivators who died because they were too slow in retreating from the tomb palace. Motherfucker. Old Fifth Ma, why do you think the Purple Lightning Heavenly Tomb is so terrifying? Even if the illusion of the Tomb Lord has an early true crossing realm cultivation base, it is still a being with low spiritual intelligence after all. How can it be so powerful? We have a total of 32 mortal profound realm cultivators and 18 ghost profound realm cultivators, but we can't even take it down. Instead, one of our fellow Taoists has died. The leader of one of the groups of cultivators was a burly man with bare arms. His cultivation base was at the peak ghost profound realm. If it's not difficult, why hasn't anyone conquered this tomb palace until today? The leader of the other group of cultivators was an old man with a scar on his face. He let out a long sigh after hearing what Ning Fan said. His group was even worse. 2 of their mortal profound realm cultivators had died in the tomb palace. Just as the group of cultivators was sighing, Ning Fan descended from the sky and directly landed at the entrance of the Purple Lightning Tomb Palace. Ning Fan scanned the information of the tomb with his spirit sense. After pondering for a while, he immediately took out 1 million Dao crystals and opened the entrance of the tomb palace. Another one who seeks his own death. He's just a peak ghost profound realm cultivator. How dare he challenge this tomb alone? The burly man with bare arms immediately sneered in disdain. Among the cultivators present, countless of them shook their heads. No one thought that Ning Fan could pass through the purple lightning heavenly tomb with his own strength. There was only one person who recognized Ning Fan. It was an elderly man in yellow robes. His cultivation base was at the peak Ghost Profound Realm. He was none other than Huang Xuanzi, who Ning Fan had met once on the 3rd level of the Divine Tomb. This person might not necessarily fail to pass through this purple lightning tomb palace. Huang Xuanzi suddenly stood up and looked at the entrance of the tomb. His eyes were filled with shock. Him? A peak Ghost Profound Realm cultivator? Just as the burly man was about to retort to Huang Xuanzi, his expression changed in the next moment. Just 3 breaths after Ning Fan stepped into the tomb, the miserable shriek of the Tomb Lord's illusion resounded from the tomb palace. On the 5th breath, the shriek began to weaken. On the 7th breath, the shriek completely stopped. On the 10th breath, the tomb door opened. Ning Fan held the purple lightning relic in his hand and stepped out of the tomb door, returning to the outside world. As for the purple lightning tomb palace, it gradually fell into silence. Silence meant that it was broken by someone. At this moment, all the cultivators present wore shocked expressions, as if they had seen something unbelievable. At this moment, even Huang Xuanzi, who had great confidence in Ning Fan, opened his mouth wide. He could not believe the scene in front of him. At this moment, the red-faced old man who was sitting on the red cloud exclaimed in shock. Just 10 breaths. How is this possible? This young man only used 10 breaths to kill the Tomb Lord of the Purple Lightning Tomb, who was at the true Enlightenment realm. A strong sense of astonishment filled the red-faced old man's heart. The disdain he had towards Ning Fan just now was not only swept away, but it immediately turned into deep respect. The red-faced old man knew that even if he goes all out, he would not be a match for the Tomb Lord of the Purple Lightning Tomb. Ning Fan, on the other hand, killed the Tomb Lord within 10 breaths. Such strength was far beyond the red-faced old man's reach. Just as everyone's eyes were fixed on Ning Fan, he leaped into the air and flew towards another heavenly tomb that was not far away from him, that had not fallen into silence yet. This time, Ning Fan broke through the 2nd heavenly tomb in just 10 breaths. Then he proceeded to the 3rd, the 4th and the 5th heavenly tomb. After passing through 9 heavenly tombs in a row, Ning Fan immediately leaped into the air and flew towards the teleportation portal that led to the 5th floor. The 200 heavenly tombs on the 4th floor had all fallen into a state of silence. After passing through 9 heavenly tombs, he was rewarded with a total of 170,000 merit points. With this amount of merit points, it was enough for him to activate the teleportation portal and enter the 5th floor. As for the 9 4-star relics that he obtained from passing through the 9 heavenly tombs, Ning Fan did not attach too much importance to them. Ning Fan arrived at the teleportation portal again. This time, the red-faced old man did not dare to neglect him. He immediately stood up and cupped his fists towards him. Fellow Taoist, I have never seen you before. May I know your name? Which force do you belong to? Heavenly Sea Star, Ning Fan. Ning Fan replied indifferently. Then he immediately stepped into the teleportation portal and vanished without a trace. After hearing Ning Fan's words, the red-faced old man's expression changed once again. Heavenly Sea Star. He's the tomb guard of the Luo clan, the Battle King. In this tomb competition, the Luo clan, the Battle King, will definitely get a good ranking. With his strength, I'm afraid it won't be difficult for him to enter the top 20. Ning Fan. Ning Fan. This name sounds so familiar. That's right, it's him. Devil Monarch Thousand Autumns Ning Fan. 8 years ago, he scared the blood slave Yuan Kuang away with a single sword strike. He's also the person who learned the Divine Blast technique and slaughtered 100 immortals in the Yao Sect Star region. It's him. With the help of the Divine Blast technique, it won't be difficult for him to enter the top 5. It's also highly possible for him to obtain the first place in this tomb competition. There were 1,000 human tombs, 500 earth tombs and 100 heavenly tombs in the 5th floor of the Divine Tomb. As soon as Ning Fan entered the 5th floor, He flew towards the teleportation portal that led to the 6th floor without saying a word. There was also an elder guarding the teleportation portal of this floor. He was an elderly sword cultivator who had a mid-crossing truth cultivation base. Ning Fan gave it a try. With a token of 170,000 merit points, he could not teleport to the 6th floor. You won't be able to enter the 6th floor with less than 500,000 merit points. The elderly sword cultivator at the side suddenly said indifferently. He was not as arrogant as the red-faced elderly man, but he did not pay too much attention to Ning Fan either. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately closed his eyes and continued his cultivation. 500,000. Ning Fan scanned the tomb palace with his spirit sense and immediately flew towards one of the heavenly tombs that had not yet fallen asleep. In this world of the 5th floor, there were still 17 heavenly tombs that no one had yet to challenge. Outside each of the heavenly tombs, there were many life immortal realm cultivators who were gathering their men. They were preparing to challenge the heavenly tombs after gathering 50 people. The 5th floor of the divine tomb, the Snow Devil Heavenly Tomb. Outside the heavenly tomb, there was a group of cultivators who were preparing to challenge the tombs. The leader of this group of cultivators was a cultivator who had half a step into the crossing truth realm. Very good. We already have 50 fellow Taoists here. Finally, we can start to challenge this Snow Devil Heavenly Tomb. Now, let me introduce the abilities of the master of this tomb. The illusory Snow Devil in this tomb is at the early crossing truth realm. He is good at using the snow-blowing technique. If you don't have an ice-resisting treasure, I'm afraid it will be difficult to defend against his attacks. Before the leader of the cultivators could finish his words, he suddenly saw Ning Fan descending from the sky like a ray of light. He directly opened the door of the tomb, as if he wanted to challenge the tomb before them. All of a sudden, the leader's expression darkened and he snorted coldly. Where did this Gui Xian come from? He doesn't know the rules and he dares to challenge the tomb alone. Does he not want to live anymore? As soon as he finished speaking, the leader no longer looked at the tomb palace behind him. In his opinion, it was impossible for Ning Fan to succeed in challenging the tomb alone. However, in less than 3 breaths, the miserable shriek of the Snow Devil resounded from within the tomb palace. On the 7th breath, the shriek completely stopped. On the 10th breath, Ning Fan reappeared in front of everyone with the Snow Devil relic in his hand. The 5 stars relic is still useless. The master of the 5th floor of the heavenly tomb is slightly stronger than the one on the 4th floor, but there is still a limit. The master of the heavenly tomb is an illusion after all. He is a dead object. Compared to the real Du Zhen, he is much weaker. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Fan turned into a ray of light and flew towards the 2nd heavenly tomb under everyone's shocked gaze. 10 breaths. 10 breaths. 10 breaths. Each of the heavenly tombs in this place could only stop Ning Fan for 10 breaths. After Ning Fan conquered all of the 17 tomb palaces here, his merit points had already reached 630,000. Who is this person? Since when did such a tomb guardian appear in this tomb competition? He only needs 10 breaths to challenge the heavenly tomb. Each of the life immortal realm old monsters' eyes fell upon the tomb guardian token in Ning Fan's hand. All of them were astonished, especially the leader of the cultivators. At this moment, his eyeballs almost fell to the ground. This young man is very strong. The eyes of the elderly sword cultivator who was guarding the teleportation door immediately flashed. When Ning Fan arrived at the teleportation door again, he immediately stood up and cupped his fists at Ning Fan without saying anything. Ning Fan also cupped his fists at him. Then he took a step forward and was teleported to the 6th floor of the Divine Tomb. On the 6th floor of the Divine Tomb, there was also a giant monument which was the same as the one on the 1st floor. At this moment, there were many strong second-step cultivators standing below the monument. Each of them was staring at the monument in shock. Just now, a name suddenly appeared on the monument. It rose from the 4,000th place to the 52nd place. Ning Fan, is he the person who shocked Yuan Kuang with his sword 8 years ago? The successor of the divine blasting technique. Devil Monarch 1000 Autumns, Ning Fan. At the moment Ning Fan stepped into the 6th floor, Many spirit sense swept towards him. Some of the life immortal realm experts were holding an ancient arrest warrant. They pointed at Ning Fan, who was standing in the sky, and exclaimed, "It's him! He is Devil Monarch Thousand Autumns." Chapter 825. Thousand Autumns Demon Lord. Many of the cultivators here had witnessed the scene where Ning Fan shocked Yuan Kuang with a single sword strike 8 years ago. Of course, they recognized that Ning Fan was Devil Lord Thousand Autumns. However, in their memories, Ning Fan was just a mid-ghost profound realm cultivator at that time. But now, he was at the peak of the ghost profound realm. Demon Monarch Thousand Autumns' cultivation speed is terrifying. Many life immortals were shocked. There were also some people who looked doubtful. It's impossible to cultivate from the middle stage of the ghost profound realm to the peak in 8 years, no matter how many treasures there are. Perhaps this person was originally at the peak of the ghost mystic realm, and he was just hiding his cultivation when he killed Yuan Kuang. Ning Fan did not care about the discussions of the cultivators here. As soon as he entered the 6th floor, Ning Fan immediately flew towards the teleportation portal that led to the 7th floor. The teleportation door leading to the 7th floor wasn't purple, but black. The door was tightly sealed, and the fiendish aura within it was extremely dense, ghastly, and terrifying. It was completely different from the aura of the previous 6 floors. As soon as they saw Ning Fan heading straight for the 7th floor, many cultivators were shocked. Could it be that Demon Lord Thousand Autumns wants to go to the last 3 levels? Could it be that he has the Void Token? The last 3 layers of the Mausoleum world are completely different from the first 6 layers. There are also the Heaven, Earth, and Human tombs, as well as tomb merit points. However, there are also countless demonic creatures from the Well of Contracts. Even if this person has the Void Token, if he rashly enters, he will most likely die. The one guarding the black door was a green-eyed old man with shedding void initial stage cultivation. He was an elder ranked in the top 50 of the Godly Void Pavilion. Seeing Ning Fan rushing towards the black door, the green-eyed old man opened his eyes slightly. After sensing the chi of the peak ghost profound realm cultivator, he was slightly surprised. "For you, what's the matter?" The blue-eyed old man's eyes turned sharp. A powerful aura of the void-rending realm immediately swept towards Ning Fan. Under that kind of aura, even Du Jin's chi would become chaotic. However, Ning Fan remained calm and collected. He patted his storage pouch and took out the Void Token and the Grave Guarding Token, showing them to the old man. Void Token. The Tomb Keeper of the War King Luo family. You're not one of the top 10 cultivators of any tomb competition, so it's impossible for you to have the Void Token. Where did you get it from? Could it be from the Luo family? The blue-eyed old man's eyes became sharper and the aura force that was pressing down on Ning Fan became even more vast. However, Ning Fan was not affected by it at all and said indifferently, "Where did this token come from? It doesn't seem to have much to do with entering the 7th floor. Senior, please open the sealed door. Junior wishes to enter the 7th floor. You do have some magical abilities to be able to resist my aura with your ghost Shen cultivation, but your cultivation is still too low. The 7th level is not a place you should go. Entering without permission meant certain death. If you insist on entering, this old man will not stop you and will naturally open the door for you. However, you must pass this old man's test." "What kind of test?" Ning Fan's eyes narrowed and asked. The blue-eyed old man withdrew his aura and took a deep look. He stood in the clouds with his hands clasped behind his back. "I'll stand here without moving. If you can force me to move half a step with your divine abilities, or if you can protect yourself, then you'll be qualified to enter the 7th level. If you don't have this strength, entering the 7th floor is equivalent to courting death." As soon as he finished speaking, the blue-eyed old man looked at Ning Fan quietly, waiting for him to make his move. Ning Fan gave the old man a deep look and remained silent. All of a sudden, he patted the soul pouch on his waist. The countless fallen primordial spirits in the soul pouch immediately filled the sky. Ning Fan performed a hand seal and all of the primordial spirits showed signs of self-detonation. Spirit Blast Technique. The blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with shock. There was even a hint of hidden greed that flashed across his eyes. After a while, he finally said, "With the number of primordial spirits you have now, it's enough to deter a late true crossing realm cultivator. If you enter the 7th floor, you'll have some strength to protect yourself. Entering the 8th floor is equivalent to courting death. If you enter the 9th floor, you'll definitely die." As soon as he finished speaking, the blue-eyed old man took out a formation compass and performed a hand seal. Immediately, more than half of the seal on the black door disappeared, but it did not completely disappear. He then took out a jade slip and passed it to Ning Fan. His face revealed a hint of kindness and said, "This jade slip contains some information about the last 3 floors of the divine tomb. Little friend, you can take it and have a look. Now you can enter." As soon as the blue-eyed old man finished speaking, he sat down cross-legged again and closed his eyes, ignoring Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned the jade slip with his spirit sense. His expression did not change, but his heart felt a chill. The content of this jade slip did contain some information about the last 3 floors of the divine tomb. He already knew some of them, but he did not know some of them. However, this blue-eyed old man did not give him this jade slip out of goodwill. After keeping the jade slip, Ning Fan activated the void token and stepped into the black door. After teleporting for a while, Ning Fan was teleported to the 7th floor of the divine tomb. At this moment, he was standing on a high platform which was protected by formation light. There was a door in the middle of the platform. He only needed to pass through this door to leave the 7th floor and return to the outside world. This high platform was built on the peak of a devil mountain. Above the vast sky, it was filled with gloomy chi. Under the devil mountain, there were countless ancient tomb palaces. Each of them contained a heavy chi. There were many tomb palaces in this place. They were not divided according to the 3 categories of heaven, earth, and human. The tomb palaces here did not require Tao crystals to be activated, but it required the consumption of the void token. Entering any of the tomb palaces in the last 3 floors would consume a void token. The tomb palaces here did not have any restrictions on cultivation base. The dangers in the tombs were also different. It was hard to tell if one would be dead or alive after entering recklessly. The world of the 7th floor was extremely vast. Its territory was almost the size of the entire Imperial Star region. Countless killing intent was hidden in the Black Mountain and Devil Water. The last 3 floors were different from the first 6 floors. There were countless devil creatures inside, and they would attack any cultivator who enters this place. In this 7th floor, there were countless second-step devil creatures. There were life immortals and Dujin. Vaguely, there were also void-shedding devil creatures. The ancient chaotic tomb is at the bottom floor. The yin-yang locket would send out its senses from time to time. It was very vague, as if it was being interfered by the chi of countless ancient tombs. It could not pinpoint the exact location of the ancient chaotic tomb. However, it was certain that the ancient chaotic tomb was at the bottom floor of the divine tomb. Ning Fan did not leave the high platform immediately. He took out the 2 jade slips given by Sha Di and carefully sensed them. In the 7th floor of the divine tomb, Sha Di's jade slips seemed to be interfered with. By activating the jade slips, he could not summon the ancient puppets or Sha Di to this place. However, by slightly activating the yin-yang locket, Ning Fan could still enter the profound yin world from this place. The jade slips can't be used here. Fortunately, I still have Ghost Face, the profound yin world, and the ancient devil puppets. I still have other means to protect myself. Ning Fan kept Sha Di's jade slips and finally stepped out of the high platform of the formation. The moment he appeared in the outside world, 4 black shadows carrying gusts of chilly wind charged at him from the Yin Mountains. These 4 gusts of chilly wind were all second-step devil creatures. They looked half-human and half-ghost and were at the early human profound realm. 3 of the black shadows opened their bloody mouths and tried to swallow Ning Fan alive. Only one of the black shadows breathed out billowing black mist at Ning Fan. That black mist was tainted with deadly poison. "You're courting death." Ning Fan's eyes turned sharp. He suddenly flicked his sleeve and an illusory sword light immediately flew out from his sleeve and split into 4. As the 4 rays of sword light flashed, the 4 black shadows were killed by the sword light. Their corpses fell from the sky and their blood flowed out. 4 black primordial spirits that were on the verge of death dashed out from their corpses and charged at Ning Fan fearlessly. Ning Fan changed his hand seal. Immediately, 108,000 swords slashed across the gloomy sky. After a while, Ning Fan withdrew his sword light. The 4 black primordial spirits were already riddled with thousands of holes and they no longer looked human. Even so, the 4 black primordial spirits were still baring their fangs at Ning Fan. The ferocious glint in their eyes did not diminish. Ning Fan bent his palm and beckoned the 4 black primordial spirits into his palm. First, he searched their souls and memories. Then, he refined them using a secret technique and kept them in his soul pouch. All the devil creatures in this place have primordial spirits. These primordial spirits can be used as a medium to cast the soul blast technique. However, they don't have any memories, so I can search their souls. The devil creatures in this place are extremely aggressive. Unless they are completely killed, as long as they still have a breath left, they will attack any cultivator who enters this place. Ning Fan's eyes moved slightly. In just a short period of time, he had a general understanding of the devil creatures in this place. After pondering for a moment, a heavenly green rain intent appeared in his eyes. He performed another hand seal. Immediately, an endless curtain of rain spread rapidly in all directions with him as the center. The place where the rain fell was the place where Ning Fan's spirit sense could sense. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, he could at least cover the range of an entire mid-grade star region by spreading his spirit sense using the heaven-peering rain technique. Even so, he did not manage to find the location of the teleportation gate to the 8th level nearby. It was also extremely difficult to determine the direction of the lower level with the help of the Yin-Yang locket. There were too many disturbances in this place. I can only search for it slowly, huh? If that's the case, I'll solve another problem first. Ning Fan's eyes darkened. After confirming a direction, he immediately flew towards it. Each of the tomb palaces in the 7th level contained the inheritance of the 7 stars fiend god cultivation method. When he passed by these tomb palaces, he would only spread out his spirit sense and casually cast a glance at them. He did not pay too much attention to them. After flying for 3 days, Ning Fan finally landed on a wasteland that was filled with dense devil chi. During these 3 days, he had killed more than 50 life immortal realm devil creatures. He even killed 1 early true crossing realm devil creature. After 3 days, Ning Fan's magical power had been severely depleted. Finally, he decided to come to this wasteland to recover his magical power. Naturally, the reason why he came to this wasteland was to solve another problem. As soon as he landed, Ning Fan immediately raised his eyes and looked at a certain dark cloud in the sky. His eyes gradually flashed with cold light. Senior has been following me for 3 days. Are you still not going to show yourself? As soon as Ning Fan's voice faded, a crack appeared in the sky. An illusory sword shadow instantly flew out from the crack and turned into 108,000 swords, slashing towards the dark cloud. The dark cloud was slashed by the sword light and immediately exploded, turning into an old man with blue eyes. His eyes carried a hint of surprise. He was Elder Shikong who was guarding the black gate. Hee, little friend, your senses are really sharp. You can even sense my presence. You're indeed worthy of being chosen by the Battle King Luo clan. However, this ability is still a little weak. The blue-eyed old man suddenly shouted. A strong aura force of the early shedding void realm immediately spread out like a wild wind, directly destroying all 108,000 illusory sword shadows. When the sword shadows were destroyed, the memory-severing Dao sword immediately trembled and fell from the sky. Ning Fan raised his palm and kept it. His expression was still without any fear, even though he knew that this blue-eyed old man had ulterior motives. Little friend, you seem to be very calm. Do you know that the reason I came here today is to kill you? The blue-eyed old man looked down at Ning Fan as if he was looking at an ant and sneered. I know. Ning Fan patted his storage pouch and took out a jade slip. He crushed it into powder. This jade slip was given to him by the blue-eyed old man previously. An extremely obscure mark was planted on it for tracking. Even an ordinary Duzhen would not be able to see through the mark. However, to the current Ning fan, it was naturally not difficult to see through the mark of the shedding void realm. Oh, it seems like you already knew that my jade slip is a trap? The blue-eyed old man's eyes turned gloomy. After a while, he sneered again. You know that I have ulterior motives, but you still accepted the jade slip. You're really stupid. The blue-eyed old man's expression was full of disdain. As he raised his hand, green flames rose to the sky and sealed the surrounding space. By sealing the space, he naturally wanted to block all of Ning Fan's escape routes. Are you going to hand over the Spirit Blast technique yourself, or force me to search your soul? His eyes were full of confidence. With his shedding void realm cultivation base, there was no reason for him to fail when he ambushed Ning Fan, who was just a spirit profound realm cultivator. The only trouble was that after killing Ning Fan, he might arouse the anger of the Battle King Luo clan. However, as long as he did this secretly, no one would know that he was the one who killed Ning Fan. Even if this matter was exposed, he still had the 8th elder behind him. Why would he be afraid of the Battle King Luo clan? Chapter 8:26. So you're here for the Soul Blast technique? Unfortunately, I won't teach you the Soul Blast technique. Besides, you don't have the strength to search my soul. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light, but his expression remained calm. This calmness made the blue-eyed old man scoff. In his opinion, Ning Fan was just pretending to be calm. That day when Qianxian sent Du Jin to kill you, he didn't manage to kill you. Unfortunately, you still fell into this old man's hands today. This old man is different from Qianxian. The reason why I want to kill you is to destroy the divine technique. But since you refuse to accept a toast, don't blame me for being ruthless. The blue-eyed old man sneered and suddenly lifted his foot to stomp on the ground. The pressure of renouncing the void suddenly spread out, and the world seemed to freeze. Above the Yin sky, the densely packed fissures extended crazily from under his feet. Immediately, 900 fissures appeared in the sky. The heavenly might of demonic fire poured out of the crack, as if a heavenly tribulation had descended. In the next instant, 900 giant meteors burning with green flames shot out from the crack between heaven and earth, bringing with them an awe-inspiring heavenly might. Each meteorite was as large as a small cultivation planet. Fall! The blue-eyed old man shouted. Immediately, the meteorites in the sky fell like stars, crashing towards the wasteland where Ning Fan was. This was the blue-eyed old man's ultimate technique, the falling star technique. The fall of 10 stars could kill a life immortal. When the 100 stars fall, the initial stage of Duzhen initial stage will die. The power of 900 stars falling down, even a late-stage true crossing cultivator would not be able to resist. The blue-eyed old man did not use his full strength in this attack. With his status as a Renhuang, there was no need for him to use his full strength to deal with a Guixian. Even so, when the stars fell, it was as if doomsday had arrived. The world was immediately covered in green light, glaring and difficult to distinguish. The ground of the wasteland was smashed by the stars, and it shattered into pieces. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Below the ground, countless streams of jade-colored lava shot up into the sky. The place where Ning Fan was standing had already fallen into a sea of fire. Inside the sea of fire, Ning Fan's life and death was uncertain. My attack seems to be a little heavy. Although this kid has the Soul Blast technique to protect himself, the number of primordial spirits he has is extremely limited. It's absolutely impossible for him to completely block my attack with the Soul Blast technique. If my attack is a little heavy, this kid will die on the spot. Although this old man has completed the task given by the 8th elder, I won't be able to search his soul to force him to hand over the secret of the Soul Blast technique. The blue-eyed old man shook his head and looked indifferently at the sea of fire below. Suddenly, the blue-eyed old man's gaze changed. The sea of fire below suddenly split into two, as if it was making way. Within the sea of flames, a white-robed young man walked out step by step. He was none other than Ning Fan. He opened his mouth and inhaled. Immediately, the sea of flames was sucked into his stomach and he refined and devoured them one by one. As expected of old monster Shikong. If you were to use your full strength, I wouldn't be able to take it. But unfortunately, this strike only has the might of the late stage of true crossing realm. Moreover, it is a fire attribute magical ability, so it cannot injure me. Ning Fan swallowed a mouthful of the green flame sea. As soon as he refined it, the magic power in his body was directly replenished by around 50%. With another gulp, the sea of flames on the ground was immediately devoured by Ning Fan, and his magic power was restored to its peak. In the past, he couldn't do this, but after he cultivated the great 5 elements physique, he was able to do it. There was no need to be afraid of exhausting his magic power. By devouring the 5 elements, he could quickly restore his magic power. The blue-eyed old man's expressionless face immediately showed a shocked color. There were many physiques that could ignore the damage of fire, but there was only one type of physique that could restore magic power by devouring the 5 elements. Only this type of physique had such a heaven-defying ability. Cultivators who possessed this type of physique were not only unafraid of the 5 elements' magical ability, but could also devour the 5 elements' magical ability as a great supplement. To any cultivators who cultivated the 5 elements, this type of physique was like a nightmare. He had never thought that a mere ghost profound realm cultivator like Ning Fan would have such a rare physique. Great 5 elements physique. It's definitely the great 5 elements physique. The information of the Chun clan didn't mention that this kid has such a physique. Fortunately, this kid is just a ghost profound realm cultivator. Otherwise, as long as he breaks through to the late true crossing realm, none of my great Tao of green flames would be able to hurt him with his great 5 elements physique. I can only find another way to deal with him. The blue-eyed old man retracted his shocked expression and his killing intent rose again. No matter how special Ning Fan's physique was, his cultivation base was still low after all. It was not worth mentioning at all. With a sway of his body, he immediately vanished from the sky. In an instant, he reappeared on the wasteland only 10 zhang away from Ning Fan. He raised his skinny palm and grabbed at Ning Fan in an extremely casual manner without saying a word. This grab seemed to have no other ability and was very simple, but it contained an indescribable power that made Ning Fan's hair stand on end. This was his first time facing old monster Shikong's ability at such a close distance. After attaining the unity of heaven and man, his senses had become sharper. At this moment, he had an intuition that if he was hit by the blue-eyed old man's grab, all of his cultivation base would vanish into thin air. Shikong, Shikong. The word Kong was the reason why old monster Shikong was so powerful. I can't block it. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan's feet immediately flashed with black flames. His figure disappeared in an instant, dodging the blue-eyed old man's grab. He dodged it? His movement technique is very fast, but that's all there is to it. The blue-eyed old man raised his head and looked at the sky. At this moment, his position was switched with Ning Fan. He was standing on the ground while Ning Fan had escaped to the sky. With a cold snort, the blue-eyed old man raised his index finger and pointed it upwards. Immediately, millions of rays of green light shot up from the ground and turned into a 1 million zhang tall volcano. There were millions of golden runes on the volcano. As soon as they appeared, they immediately broke into countless lava rocks. Then, they condensed into a gigantic lava hand that covered the sky and grabbed at the sky. The vast sky crumbled. A gust of violent wind that came from below nearly blew Ning Fan away from the sky. The space in all directions was sealed. Below him was the gigantic hand that covered the sky. There was no way he could dodge this attack. The blue-eyed old man finally used his full strength for this attack. This volcano was the acquired immortal treasure that the blue-eyed old man cultivated with his life. No one who wasn't a Shikong cultivator could withstand this volcano. Shikong is indeed far from what I can defeat. It's already difficult for me to survive a few rounds in the hands of old monster Shikong. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with regret. If the blue-eyed old man didn't use his full strength, he wouldn't mind using his own strength to mediate and gain some experience in fighting against Shikong. But now, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to do so. Close. The blue-eyed old man shouted. The gigantic lava hand immediately clenched. Whether it was the sky or Ning Fan, everything was grasped in the palm of the giant hand, as if it had already crushed them all. Heaven and earth began to tremble violently. The vast sky kept collapsing. The blue-eyed old man grinned hideously. From his point of view, Ning Fan had most likely been beaten beyond recognition by his attack. After I capture this young man's primordial spirit, I have plenty of ways to pry open his mouth and extract the complete incantation of the spirit blast technique from him. Just as this thought rose in his mind, the blue-eyed old man suddenly revealed a look of astonishment and looked at the vast sky in disbelief. The gigantic lava hand that was transformed from his Dao soldier suddenly began to tremble violently. Countless cracks spread crazily on the surface of the giant hand. In the next moment, a huge force that carried a monstrous devil might suddenly collided with the giant lava hand, directly smashing it into countless pieces of lava and rubble that fell to the vast sky. At the moment when the giant hand completely collapsed, the blue-eyed old man who cultivated with his life immediately felt a pain in his primordial spirit. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth and he looked at the vast sky furiously. Above the vast sky, the smoke and dust dispersed and Ning Fan's figure appeared. At this moment, there was a burly man in a cloak standing beside Ning Fan. The Six Desires puppet string was entwined between Ning Fan's fingers. That volcano magical treasure was destroyed by the ancient devil puppet that he controlled with a single punch. Shikong, old monster. No, this isn't right. This is a puppet. The blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with shock again. He couldn't imagine how a mere ghost profound realm cultivator like Ning Fan could possess a Shikong puppet. Moreover, even though the chi of this puppet was also at the early Shikong realm like him, it was much stronger than him. Kill! Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light. The puppet string between his fingers moved and the ancient devil puppet immediately took a step forward. This step contained boundless tremendous force, forming tens of cracks of devil light which immediately spread wildly in the sky. At this moment, the spatial seal that the blue-eyed old man planted was broken by the ancient devil puppet. As his divine technique was broken, the blue-eyed old man suffered a slight backlash and felt a sharp pain in his chest. Before he could react, the ancient devil puppet's body had already disappeared without a trace. At the same time, the blue-eyed old man felt a chill run down his spine. Without any hesitation, the blue-eyed old man took out a treasure and threw it towards his back the moment he turned around. It was a golden brick. Its surface was densely covered with runes of the Great Tao. Although it didn't seem big, it was actually a supreme treasure that was refined from an entire high-grade cultivation planet. It was unusually heavy. Even an ordinary Shikong realm cultivator would bleed after being hit by this golden brick. At the place where the golden brick landed, the figure of the ancient devil puppet appeared amidst the flickering devil light. At this moment, countless tadpole-like runes were swimming on the body of the ancient devil puppet. Those runes were the power of the ancestral talisman that Ning Fan had imbued into the ancient devil. In the past, Ning Fan couldn't imbue the power of the ancestral talisman on others. Now that his ancient devil cultivation base had increased, he could do it. With the help of the ancestral talisman, the aura of the ancient devil puppet skyrocketed. Among the early Shikong realm cultivators, only a few had such a terrifying aura. When he raised his fist, it was as if the entire world was held in his hand. When the punch was thrown, it was as if the entire world was being punched by the ancient devil puppet. When the punch landed on the golden brick magic treasure, it directly turned into countless golden powder which was dispersed by the wind. After the first punch, the ancient devil puppet threw a second punch at the blue-eyed old man's chest. It carried an unimaginable destructive force. The runes of the ancestral talisman spread in all directions. The space within 100 zhang was immediately sealed, not allowing the blue-eyed old man to escape. The blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with shock. He gritted his teeth and took out a giant cauldron, smashing it towards the ancient devil puppet. At the same time, he summoned his spirit armor without hesitation. The armor flickered with spiritual light which was enough to defend against all attacks under the Shikong realm. The hollow eyes of the ancient devil suddenly shone with cold light. That cold light was Ning Fan's emotion. When the punch landed, the giant cauldron magic treasure was directly shattered into countless pieces. The aftershock of the punch landed on the blue-eyed old man's chest. Immediately, countless cracks appeared on his spirit armor. The destructive force penetrated through the cracks and rushed into the blue-eyed old man's body, causing him to suffer many injuries. His face turned pale. He took several steps back and coughed out blood. His expression when he looked at the ancient devil puppet was filled with horror. Without giving him time to think, the third punch of the ancient devil arrived. This punch contained the momentum of the previous two punches. It was as fast as lightning, not allowing the blue-eyed old man to take out another magic treasure to protect himself. In a moment of desperation, a ray of green light shot out from the top of the blue-eyed old man's head and heavily collided with the ancient devil's punch. It was a ray of green lightning. Its power was obviously beyond the blue-eyed old man's cultivation base. Under this collision, the ancient devil puppet's punch was blocked. The shockwave from the collision caused it to take half a step back. As for the blue-eyed old man, he coughed out blood again. His face was as pale as a piece of paper. His injuries had worsened more than twice in an instant. The life-saving green lightning given to me by the eighth elder is only enough to slightly repel this puppet. How can this puppet be so powerful? I'm afraid that I won't be able to destroy this puppet even if I use up all the remaining green lightning. However, this puppet doesn't seem to have any spiritual intelligence. It must be controlled by the puppet strings. In other words, as long as I kill this kid, this puppet will become a masterless object. It won't be able to attack me anymore. The blue-eyed old man's eyes turned ruthless. He raised his hand and took out a few magic treasures to attack the ancient devil puppet. He didn't aim to hurt the puppet, but to slightly slow it down. The second ray of green lightning flew out from his glabella. It immediately turned into a green lightning dragon. It violently shattered the devil talisman seal within 100 zhang radius and soared towards Ning Fan. What a powerful green lightning! Even with Ning Fan's great 5 elements physique and the ability of the Tai Su lightning star, he still felt a sense of danger from this green lightning. Without any hesitation, Ning Fan immediately summoned the Tai Su lightning diagram and spread it in front of the green lightning. At the moment when the green lightning crashed into the lightning diagram, Ning Fan changed his hand seal. The lightning diagram retracted and swallowed the green lightning. Immediately, the connection between the blue-eyed old man and the green lightning was forcefully cut off. Ning Fan's face turned pale and he suddenly coughed out blood. The lightning star on his glabella gave him a sharp pain as if it was about to explode. It was still a little forceful for him to forcefully keep this green lightning. On the other side, the ancient devil puppet had destroyed a few of the blue-eyed old man's magic treasures. Its eyes flashed with ferocious light. It took a step towards the blue-eyed old man and grabbed his arms with both of its hands, tearing them apart. Before he could figure out why Ning Fan wasn't killed by the green lightning, a sharp pain spread throughout the blue-eyed old man's body. Whether it was the spiritual armor on his body or the body that he had painstakingly cultivated for millions of years, all of them were torn into countless pieces by the ancient devil puppet. Blood splattered on the ground. A miserable shriek was heard. The blue-eyed old man's primordial spirit rolled up the storage pouch and escaped from the corpse in a panic. It didn't even have the time to take away the third green lightning in the corpse. It turned into a ray of light and fled for its life. The ancient devil puppet's figure flashed and disappeared. Then, it blocked the blue-eyed old man's path. It grabbed the old man's primordial spirit with its huge hand. The essence in its palm vibrated. The blue-eyed old man's primordial spirit immediately suffered a heavy blow. Its chi became frantically weak. Not to mention escaping, it couldn't even self-destruct its primordial spirit. Ning Fan's figure flashed and landed next to the ancient devil puppet. He took the blue-eyed old man's storage pouch and a green lightning from his corpse. This green lightning originally belonged to the blue-eyed old man. It was his life-saving measure. Now it was taken away by Ning Fan. The moment Ning Fan took the primordial spirit from the ancient devil puppet, the blue-eyed old man's eyes were filled with fear. He had never thought that Ning Fan, who was just a ghost profound realm cultivator, could escape from his pursuit and use a shedding void puppet to reverse the situation and capture him. If he had known this earlier, he certainly wouldn't have come to kill Ning Fan alone. At least, he would have called a few more people to ensure that nothing would go wrong. You mentioned Qin Xian in your words just now. Could it be that you're talking about the patriarch of the Eastern Ocean Qin family, Qin Xian? That day, I was ambushed in the Ling Tai Star. Was it him who sent the assassins? Ning Fan asked in a cold tone. So what if it was? I'm not afraid to tell you that Qin Xian and I are the 8th Elder's men. If you dare to do anything to me, the 8th Elder will never let you go. The blue-eyed old man pretended to be imposing, trying to scare Ning Fan and beg for a way out. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, Ning Fan had already used the soul-searching and memory-destroying technique on him. No one would believe that a dignified shedding void puppet would end up having his soul and memory destroyed by a ghost profound realm cultivator. However, this matter was really happening right now. At first, the blue-eyed old man screamed in agony. However, as time passed, his eyes gradually became dull and his expression became blank. His screams also gradually stopped. 2 hours later, Ning Fan finally finished searching the man's soul. His face was unusually cold. From the man's memory, Ning Fan learned that his name was Qin Yangzi. He was the 47th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion. Qin Yangzi and the patriarch of the Qin family, Qin Xian, were the subordinates of the 8th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion. The assassins who tried to assassinate him in the Ling Tai Star were the assassins of the Qin family. Whether it was the Qin family or Qin Yangzi, the main reason why they wanted to kill him was because of their hostility towards the Luo family, the War King. When the Qin family heard that Ning Fan had incredible combat strength, they sent out their assassins in an attempt to eliminate Ning Fan, not giving him the chance to cultivate the war god art. This was also the reason why Qin Yangzi made his move. Seizing the Soul Blast technique was also something he wanted to do along the way. The 8th elder of the Godly Void Pavilion, Lei Jinshi. This person is the patriarch of the Lei family in the Eastern Sea. His cultivation base is at the late thought-shattering realm, and he is not on good terms with the 9th elder. He had secretly sent people to kill a few cultivators who had the potential to become the guest elder of the Luo family. The higher the combat strength of a person, the more importance the Luo family would place on them. At the same time, they would also be more hostile towards this person. This person was unwilling to let the Luo family save the War King. The reason why the Qin family sent people to kill me was because of this person's order. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with killing intent. He would remember the enmity between the Lei family and the Qin family. If it wasn't because of the ancient devil puppet in my body, I would probably die in the hands of this Qin Yangzi this time. If Qin Yangzi dies in the divine tomb, that Lei Jinshi will certainly notice it. Who knows, he might even send more people to the bottom level of the divine tomb to kill me. I can't activate the Slayer Emperor's Jade Slip here. If he sends someone stronger, it will be hard for me to resist. Ning Fan's gaze swept across Qin Yangzi's primordial spirit and remained silent. After a while, he sealed this idiotic primordial spirit in a jade box and kept it temporarily. This was not the best time for Qin Yangzi to die. If he goes to the outside world and has the Slayer Emperor's Jade Slip to protect him, it would not matter even if Lei Jinshi finds out that he killed Qin Yangzi. After keeping Qin Yangzi's primordial spirit, Ning Fan scanned his storage pouch with his spirit sense and found 4 void tokens. The reason why Qin Yangzi could enter the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb was because he possessed the void tokens. However, Ning Fan did not expect that this person would actually have 4 void tokens. In this case, I now have 5 void tokens. Other than opening the chaotic ancient tomb palace, I might also be able to open other tomb palaces. After keeping the void tokens, Ning Fan bent his palm and condensed 2 green lightning bolts on the center of his palm. These two green lightning bolts were the life-saving abilities that Lei Jinshi had given to Qin Yangzi. Ning Fan had already seen it in Qin Yangzi's memories. Any of the green lightning bolts was enough to kill all cultivators below the sky-rending realm. In the last 3 levels of the Divine Tomb where there were devil creatures everywhere, these green lightning bolts could be used as his life-saving ability. After keeping the 2 green lightning bolts into the lightning star on his glabella, Ning Fan leaped into the profound Yin world and began to heal his injuries. A few days later, he left the profound Yin world. After choosing a direction, he continued to look for the entrance to the 8th level. Inside the heavenly prison on the Void Star in the Eastern Ocean Star region. At the moment, there were countless divine Void Realm old monsters sitting cross-legged near the bell altar. They were performing magic techniques to repair the heaven-suppressing bell. All of a sudden, the 8th elder Lei Jinshi opened his eyes. As if he had sensed something, he frowned slightly. Strange. Why did the primordial spirit connection between me and Qin Yangzi weaken a little? Could it be that something happened to him when he went to the Divine Tomb to kill a junior? This is definitely impossible. A mere profound ghost realm cultivator can never hurt skyrending realm no matter how strong he is. He's just an ant. If it's the skyrending realm devil creatures on the 7th level, they might be able to hurt Qin Yangzi. However, Qin Yangzi has the life-saving green lightning that I gave him. Ordinary devil creatures won't be able to hurt him. The weakening of the primordial spirit connection might just be my illusion. Lei Jinshi shook his head and closed his eyes again. Of course, he would never think that the current Qin Yangzi had already turned into an idiot and was sealed in a jade box by Ning Fan, who was just an ant in his eyes. Chapter 827. The world of the 7th level was naturally extremely vast. However, with Ning Fan's speed, he finally arrived at the edge of the 7th level after a few days. Ning Fan had yet to find the location of the teleportation gate that leads to the 8th floor. He stood in a valley and frowned. Along the way, he killed many life-immortal realm fiends, but he did not encounter any fiends above Duzhen. At this moment, there were already 236 life-immortal realm primordial spirits in his soul pouch. If all of them were detonated, even a cultivator at the peak of the Crossing Truth realm would have to be fearful. He had also obtained 2 life-immortal Dao fruits. To Ning Fan, however, they were no longer valuable items. Have I gone in the wrong direction? The 7th level of the Divine Tomb is so big, but there's no map. I can only aimlessly search for the entrance to the 8th level. Ning Fan shook his head. He did not have the map of the last 3 levels. Even Qin Yangzi did not have it. According to Qin Yangzi's memories, only the cultivators above the Broken Thought realm in the Godly Void Pavilion knew the map of the last 3 levels. Naturally, in this tomb of the God of Sin, there was a group of people who had a map of this place. They were the few demons who were above the Duzhen level. If I had known that the last 3 layers were so vast, I would have asked Lu Feng for a map of the Divine Tomb that day. To him, carving a map is just something that can be done in the blink of an eye. It's too late to talk about this now. In Qin Yangzi's memory, there is a lot of information about the last 3 levels of the Tomb of the God of Sin. For example, once a devil in this place cultivates to the Duzhen realm, there will be a very small chance of gaining spiritual wisdom. The higher the cultivation, the higher the chance of gaining spiritual wisdom. These intelligent demonic creatures have been cultivating here for countless years. Naturally, they know the map of this place. If we can capture a demonic creature with intelligence, it will save us a lot of trouble. Ning Fan pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes flickered and he looked at the only withered tree in the valley. A moment later, he was deep in thought as he stepped on the black flame and left. A long time after he left, the only withered tree in the valley suddenly emitted a flash of devil chi and transformed into an old man at the early stage of the Crossing Truth realm. The old man looked like both a human and a devil. Half of his skin was made of tree bark. His eyes were not empty like most of the monsters here. He was one of the few intelligent monsters in the Tomb of the God of Sin. Looking at the direction where Ning Fan had fled to, The old man's eyes flashed with ferocious light and he said coldly, "This person should be the cultivator who entered the 7th floor recently. The delicious smell that revered lord smelled should be from this person." TSK. This old man just got close to him and carefully sniffed. This person's flesh and blood essence is too perfect. To a high lord, it is definitely a great tonic. High lord, you didn't smell wrongly. The exalted lord is only one step away from the void realm. As long as he devours this kid, he'll definitely become the 9th void realm heavenly demon in the 7th level. I'll send a message to the exalted lord. The cultivator he wants to eat is right where I am. Sigh, this person's baleful aura is too heavy. This old man has just broken through to the true crossing realm not too long ago. I do not have too much confidence in taking him down. If not for that, when this person arrived just now, this old man would have made a move and taken him down. Forget it, it's better to let the High Lord take action personally. It's more reliable. The old man sneered and raised his hand. Immediately, a demonic light soared into the sky. It was a sword light that transmitted sound. Unfortunately, the sound-transmitting flying sword had just soared into the sky when it suddenly exploded without any warning. At the place where it exploded, a white-robed young man who had quietly returned to the place and was hiding himself slowly appeared. "You want to inform your High Lord and eat me? What a loyal demon to protect your High Lord." As soon as the white-robed young man raised his hand, 108,000 illusory sword shadows immediately formed into a sword formation, trapping the early true crossing realm old man within it. All of a sudden, the old man's expression changed greatly and he cried out in fear. "Why didn't you leave? Why did you come back?" Before he could finish his words, he already let out a miserable shriek as he was ruthlessly slashed by the 108,000 swords. Memories kept flashing in front of his eyes. In those memories, there were more and more people holding black gold longswords slashing at him. 10 breaths later, the physical body of the old man who had yet to stabilize his true crossing realm exploded into countless amounts of tainted blood, sprinkling all over the sword formation. After withdrawing the 108,000 sword shadows, Ning Fan bent his palm and beckoned, capturing a black primordial spirit that was trying to escape. Then he directly searched his soul. Of course, Ning Fan could not read the complete memories of the old man by searching his soul. However, he could only read bits and pieces of his memories. It was enough for him to roughly understand the map of the 7th level. After destroying the old man's primordial spirit, he refined it using a secret technique and kept it into his soul pouch. After doing all of these, Ning Fan leaped into the sky. He chose a certain direction and dashed straight towards the 8th level. Just like that, he flew for 6 days. Along the way, there were already 274 primordial spirits of life immortal realm beings in his soul pouch. 6 days later, he finally saw the teleportation platform that led to the 8th level from afar. However, outside the teleportation platform, there were at least 300 second step devil beasts. Among the 300 devils, there were 15 true crossing realm devils. Of the 15 Dujin devils, only 4 of them had intelligence. One of them was the lord of this group of devils. He was a black-robed young man with a gloomy expression. Currently, he was sitting on a throne with many devils surrounding him. One of his hands was supporting his chin while the other hand was holding a wine goblet, sipping from it. The wine goblet was not filled with wine but blood. It was the blood of the devils. The blood that isn't a cultivator really tastes bad. The young man drank a mouthful of the black blood and frowned. He snorted with displeasure and threw the wine goblet to the ground. "Don't worry, venerable lord. We have already found out that the tasty cultivator is rushing towards this place. As soon as he arrives, venerable lord will definitely be able to taste the most delicious blood." One of the devils with spiritual intelligence immediately said with fear and trepidation when he saw his lord getting angry. "I have been waiting here for 6 days. If he still doesn't come?" The black-robed young man suddenly let out a sinister smile halfway through his words. He stood up abruptly and looked at the sky. There was a ray of light rushing towards him from that direction. "Kill!" Without saying anything else, the black-robed young man just raised his hand and waved slightly. Among the demonic creatures around him, nearly 100 life-immortal realm demonic creatures revealed ferocious glints in their eyes as they flew into the sky and charged toward the light. Ning Fan's spirit sense swept across the densely packed devils that were rushing towards him. His eyes darkened. He stopped the ray of light and stepped on the vast sky, advancing step by step. While walking among the 100 life-immortal realm devils, Ning Fan's essence chi circulated throughout his body. Every time he raised his hand, a life-immortal realm devil would be torn into pieces. In just 10 breaths, all of the 100 life-immortal realm devils were torn into pieces by Ning Fan. The essence of their flesh and blood were condensed into the wine and all their primordial spirits were kept away. Trash! The black-robed young man seemed to be extremely displeased. He harumphed and waved his hand again. Kill! This time, apart from him, all the other devils rushed towards Ning Fan, including the 14 Duzhen devils. Among the 14 devils, there were 7 early Duzhen devils, 4 mid-Duzhen devils and 3 late Duzhen devils. With their current cultivation base, Ning Fan naturally couldn't deal with them alone. A primordial spirit that came to my doorstep. Ning Fan waved his hand and summoned the ancient devil puppet. The puppet immediately grew in the wind and turned into a giant devil. Ning Fan hooked the puppet string between his fingers. The puppet immediately rushed into the army of devils, tearing them into pieces and swallowing their primordial spirits. Void abandoning puppet. Not good. The black-robed young man's expression changed drastically. Without saying a word, he turned around and ran. The direction he fled in was actually the direction of the 8th floor's teleportation portal. He went straight into the 8th floor, and his movements were really fast. The other 3 devils with spiritual wisdom were also frightened. They wanted to run away, but they were already killed by the ancient devil puppet before they could do so. Those devils that did not have spiritual wisdom continued to rush towards the ancient devil puppet without any fear of death. However, they could only be killed by it. In just 10 breaths, all the devils in this place were slaughtered by the ancient devil puppet. Ning Fan kept all the flesh and blood of the devil corpses. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He leaped onto the shoulder of the ancient devil puppet. Under the control of the puppet string, the puppet turned into a ray of black light and flew into the teleportation gate of the teleportation platform. As soon as he arrived at the 8th floor, Ning Fan immediately released his rain intent. Instantly, it started to drizzle. After confirming a direction, Ning Fan drove the puppet and chased after it. That direction was exactly the direction where the black-robed young man had escaped to. Sensing the escaping light behind him, the black-robed young man was almost scared to death. Just now, he wanted to savor the taste of Ning Fan's blood. Now, he wished that Ning Fan would run far away from him. Damn it! A mere peak ghost profound realm cultivator actually has a void-shedding puppet. Are all the cultivators outside the divine tomb so heaven-defying? But I'm not afraid. My master is a devil lord of the 8th floor. He is an early thought fragmentation realm expert. Not to mention the 8th floor, he is also a famous figure in the 9th floor. As long as he escapes to my master's abode and asks my master for help, killing him will be as easy as flipping his palm. Just as this thought rose in his mind, his face turned into horror and despair in the next moment. The ancient devil puppet was getting closer and closer to him. In the end, it took a step forward and directly crossed the path in front of him. Its massive body was like a mountain, blocking the path in front of him, making it impossible for him to move forward. You seem to be very familiar with this 8th floor. If that's the case, I can directly obtain the map of this floor after killing you. Ning Fan said indifferently. Then he hooked the puppet string between his fingers. Immediately, the ancient devil puppet lifted its leg and stomped on the black-robed young man. The young man was shocked. He opened his mouth and spat out a black devil sword, slashing at the direction where the ancient devil puppet was stomping. Unfortunately, before his devil sword could display its power, it was directly crushed by the ancient devil puppet's foot. That foot continued to stomp on the ground. A huge force spread out, instantly destroying the mountains and rivers within a million li. Countless devil creatures were startled by that stomp. As for the young man's physical body, it was directly stomped into meat paste. Only his withered primordial spirit was captured by Ning Fan. Impossible. I'm only half a step away from the void-shedding realm. This puppet. Before he could finish his words, he let out a blood-curdling scream and directly fainted. It was because Ning Fan did not waste time talking nonsense with him and directly searched his soul and memory. After searching his soul, Ning Fan naturally knew the map of the 8th floor like the back of his hand. He also gained some understanding of the distribution of devil creatures in the last 3 floors. For the devil creatures in the last 3 floors, as long as their cultivation base reaches the crossing truth realm, they will have a small chance to gain spiritual wisdom. Among the devil creatures that have gained spiritual wisdom, if one of them breaks through to the void-shedding realm, he will be qualified to become a lord of a territory. If he breaks through to the thought fragmentation realm, he can become a devil lord of a territory. This devil did not break through to the void-shedding realm. However, he has a devil lord as his master. That's why he could dominate the 7th floor and become a lord of a territory. In the 7th floor of the Divine Tomb, there are a total of 8 lords of void-shedding realm. In the 8th floor, there are more than 30 lords of void-shedding realm. There is even a thought fragmentation devil lord who is this devil's master. This devil doesn't know the map of the 9th floor. He also doesn't know how many powerful devil creatures there are in the 9th floor. However, it is said that there is a well of contracts in the 9th floor. Therefore, the number of devil creatures there is also the strongest. Especially near the devil well, there are even quasi-emperor realm devil creatures. There is a mark left by his master in this devil's body. If he dies, his master will certainly sense it. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He scanned the body with his spirit sense and immediately found a mark in the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes. The mark was originally black. However, at this moment, it gradually turned blood red. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's expression changed slightly. Without saying a word, he directly threw the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes away. After that, he kept the ancient devil puppet. Then he changed his face and summoned Ghost Face. Immediately, he turned invisible and quietly flew towards the 9th floor. At the moment when he threw the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes away, a ray of red light immediately flew out from the mark in the young man's primordial spirit. As soon as the red light landed on the ground, it immediately turned into the appearance of an old man with red eyes. He was holding the primordial spirit of the young man in black robes in his hand. "Who is it? How dare you destroy the intelligence of my disciple?" There was one thing that he did not tell his disciple. In fact, the mark that he planted could not only sense his disciple's death but also slightly sense his disciple's situation when he is in danger. Then he could use the mark to directly teleport over. Of course, the memories of the young man in black robes would not mention this. However, Ning Fan's sharp senses had detected the strange changes in the mark. He guessed that something unforeseen would happen and immediately fled from this place. In the end, the master of the young man in black robes was a step too late. Otherwise, he would be able to witness the scene of Ning Fan searching his soul and memory with his own eyes. There is still a trace of his chi here. The old man with red eyes grabbed the air and sniffed it. Then he let out a cold humph and said, "A peak ghost profound realm puppet and an early shedding void realm puppet? So, they are cultivators from the outside world. My contract devil had once made a contract with Emperor Shin Space. The agreement between me and him was that as long as I help him in a battle, I can stay in the Divine Tomb forever and become the king of a region. Even if he is a divine void realm cultivator, I also have the right to kill and devour him. I have spent 1,000,000 years to raise him to the peak true crossing realm. Originally, I wanted to keep him. But now, his intelligence has been destroyed by a cultivator from the outside world. He is useless now." The old man glanced at the primordial spirit of his disciple, which had a blank look in his hand. A ruthless expression flashed across his face and he swallowed his disciple's primordial spirit. Then his eyes flickered and he sneered. The one who harmed my disciple is just a ghost profound realm cultivator. It is impossible for him to run far in such a short amount of time. At this moment he is either hiding in a small kiliacosm or a middle kiliacosm cosmos treasure. After pondering for a moment, the red-eyed old man suddenly stretched out 2 fingers and poked them into his eyes. He then grabbed the bloody red eyeball and threw it into the sky. After that, he closed his eyes and sat cross-legged on the ground. As soon as the eyeball rose to the sky, it immediately grew to 100 zhang in size. Immediately, circles of red light spread to the entire 8th floor with the eyeball as the center. With the power of the eyeball, the red-eyed old man spread his vision to the entire 8th floor of the divine tomb. If this young man passes through the teleportation gate, there will certainly be some fluctuations. If he cancels his invisibility, there will certainly be a moment when he shows himself. Even if he hides in a cosmos treasure, I don't believe that he can hide for the rest of his life. As long as he shows up in the 8th floor or if there is any fluctuation, I will certainly be able to detect him. At that time, it will be the death of this young man. Ning Fan concealed his body and rushed towards the teleportation gate of the 9th floor. At a certain moment, circles of red light swept across the sky and swept past Ning Fan's body. Even though it did not detect Ning Fan's location, Ning Fan could tell at a glance that the red light was a kind of detection ability. Moreover, judging from the chi of this magic technique, the one who cast it was the master of the black-robed young man. This is a little troublesome. There is still a long distance between this place and the teleportation gate of the 9th floor. With my current speed, I might need at least 10 days to get there. During this period of time, the Ghost Face's invisibility ability will certainly be cancelled. As Ning Fan's cultivation base increased, the duration of the innate Ghost Face's invisibility ability also increased. However, it still could not stay invisible for 10 days at a time. At most, it could stay for 5 days. If he enters the profound Yin world before the invisibility ability ends, he would be able to reach the teleportation gate. However, there would also be other troubles. Even if I can stay invisible all the way to the teleportation gate of the 9th floor, once I teleport, I will immediately cause fluctuations and be discovered by this person. Even if I teleport back to the 7th floor, I will still be discovered by this person. A sense of danger that he had not felt for a long time gradually lingered in Ning Fan's heart. At the moment when this sense of danger rose, the bloodline of the 3 clans in Ning Fan's body who was flying on black flames vaguely felt like it was boiling. All of a sudden, Ning Fan's eyes turned cold and he made up his mind. He touched his glabella and took out a green lightning and swallowed it in one go. With his great 5 elements physique, refining the green lightning could continuously restore a large amount of magic power. Just by refining a trace of the green lightning, the extra magic power in his body almost made his primordial spirit explode. Before his primordial spirit exploded, his body was already ignited with golden flames, consuming all the excess magic power. Like an arrow that left the bow, he pierced through the sky, leaving a trail of golden light that was 10,000 zhang long and dashed towards the 9th floor. If I can't avoid it, there's no need to. Moreover, when I reach the 9th floor, I will conceal myself and get rid of the red-eyed old man's pursuit. I found him. But how could this person's speed be so fast? Could he be an ancient monster? No, it's impossible. If he is an ancient monster, why would he be afraid of me? Why would he conceal himself? The red-eyed old man's eyes widened. He suddenly rose to his feet and retracted his eyeballs. After pondering for a while, he still decided to chase after Ning Fan. However, his speed was not enough to catch up with Ning Fan. In the world of the 8th floor, countless devil creatures who had cultivated their spiritual wisdom left their caves and nests at this moment and looked up at the sky. Looking at the golden rainbow that pierced through the sky and disappeared in a flash, none of them were not shocked. Ning Fan quickly refined the green lightning in his body, trying to replenish the magic power of the golden light. The speed of this technique was comparable to that of an ancient monster. However, it also consumed an extremely large amount of magic power. Borrowing the suppression of the ghost face, Ning Fan forcefully activated this technique. The journey that should have taken 6 days only took him slightly more than 10 breaths. The golden rainbow crashed into the teleportation portal and immediately sped across the world of the 9th floor, alarming countless experts in the area. At the moment when the green lightning in his body was about to be completely exhausted, Ning Fan withdrew the rainbow and directly entered the profound Yin world. Almost 2 hours later, the red-eyed old man finally arrived at the world of the 9th floor. However, at this moment, Ning Fan was already nowhere to be found. The chi of the golden light that he saw earlier had also disappeared. He had no idea where he should go to find Ning Fan at all. Damn it! This cunning brat actually managed to escape from me. There are a lot of experts in the 9th floor. I can't simply use the blood vision technique here. Otherwise, it will certainly arouse the other devil lord's fear. If I go looking for him without any clues, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to find this brat. I might as well wait for him here. No matter what, this brat is still a cultivator from the outside world. He will leave the 9th floor sooner or later. I don't believe that he won't show himself while I'm waiting at this door. Chapter 828. For 10 consecutive days, Ning Fan stayed in the profound Yin world to avoid using a secret technique to refine his primordial spirit while waiting. There were already nearly 600 primordial spirits in his storage pouch. Among them, there were 19 primordial spirits of Du Zhen. With the number of primordial spirits he had now, even an early void-shedding old monster would have to retreat immediately if he uses the Spirit Blast technique. 10 days later, Ning Fan stood in the profound Yin world and used the rain technique. When he realized that there were no abnormalities in the outside world and there was no detection technique from the red-eyed old man, he finally appeared in the outside world with his invisibility ability. There was no abnormality in the outside world and the red-eyed old man did not seem to be chasing after him. With the help of the yin-yang locket, Ning Fan searched for the direction of the chaotic ancient tomb palace. When he reached the 9th floor, the locket could finally guide him to the location of the chaotic ancient tomb palace. In this way, it saved Ning Fan the trouble of searching for the map of the 9th floor. After confirming a direction, Ning Fan flew at full speed while remaining invisible. In this floor he could feel countless obscure but terrifying chi. There were void-shedding old monsters, broken thoughts, and even the chi of an ancient being. It was said that there was a contract well in this divine tomb which was directly connected to the devil world. That day, the quasi-emperor who looked like Mo Luo had used the contract well to come to the Eastern Heaven immortal world. Some of the devils here came from the devil world while the rest were formed naturally. In this world, mountains, water, plants, and even pills could turn into devils. As long as anything has spirituality, it would have the possibility of turning into devils. The world of the 9th floor was divided into 2 regions, the east and the west. The further to the west, the more chi of devils and the more experts there were. The further to the east, the lesser the chi of devils. On the first day, there were many void-shedding old monsters and broken thoughts along the way. On the second day, there were no more void-shedding old monsters along the way. On the third day, there were no more void-shedding old monsters. On the fourth day, there were very few void-shedding old monsters and life-immortal monsters. On the fifth day, there were no more devils in the vast world. Ning Fan exited his invisibility ability and flew in the vast sky of the eastern region. He could not find a single hair of a devil in the vast mountains and rivers. After flying for another day, a few tomb palaces gradually appeared in front of his eyes. The tomb palaces in the 9th floor were all 9-star cultivation methods. The masters of the tomb palaces were all famous figures in the world when they were still alive. Any random tomb palace exuded an immortal aura, as if it could suppress the ages. Ning Fan casually landed in front of one of the tombs. With his current cultivation base, if he did not summon his ghost face, he would not be able to withstand the chi of the tombs and approach the tombs within a distance of 1,000 zhang. Then he summoned the ancient fiend puppet again. Even with its cultivation base, it still couldn't get within 300 meters of the tomb. In other words, even if the cultivators who entered the 9th floor had the void token, if they couldn't withstand the chi of the tomb palace, they wouldn't be able to get close to it and open the tomb palace. With a wave of his hand, Ning Fan summoned Ghost Face and tried again. Finally, he was able to withstand the chi of the grave palace and approached the door. Without opening the door of the tomb, he only had 5 void realm tokens with him. He would not waste them recklessly. Moreover, opening the door to the 9th layer of the tomb was filled with unfathomable dangers. Even if it was the chaotic ancient tomb palace, Ning Fan was not sure if he would encounter any danger inside. Thus, he would not casually enter other tomb palaces. Outside the tomb palace, there were 15 sets of broken bones as well as some broken pieces of Dao crystals, pills, magical treasures, storage bags. These broken bones belonged to cultivators who had failed to enter the tomb. Their deaths were incomparably miserable and their corpses were incomplete. After flying eastward for another 2 days, there were more and more tomb palaces. After flying for another 2 days, there were fewer and fewer tomb palaces. Gradually, there were no longer any tomb palaces on the mountains and rivers. After flying for another day, in the depths of a desolate mountain, there was a lonely tomb palace that had existed for a long time. The moment he approached the tomb palace, the yin-yang locket in Ning Fan's body almost lost control and flew out of his body on its own. Ning Fan's expression changed. He immediately circulated the yin-yang transformation to suppress the loss of control of the yin-yang locket. When he looked at the tomb palace again, his face gradually turned solemn. This tomb was the ancient chaotic tomb. The journey to the bottom of the divine tomb was filled with dangers. Ning Fan's goal was just to obtain the inheritance in this tomb. This tomb was different from the other tomb palaces. It did not emit any aura force. It just stood there as if it was extremely ordinary. If it wasn't because of the 3,000 piles of broken bones outside the tomb, Ning Fan would almost think that this tomb was extremely easy to enter and there would not be any danger. Among these broken bones, there were the remains of cultivators who were shedding Kong and sense-breaking cultivators. There were even some broken bones of cultivators who had lost all their spiritual nature. Even Ning Fan felt a little shocked when he saw the 3,000 piles of broken bones outside the tomb palace. During my journey, it was already rare to find more than 10 skeletons outside the tomb palace. However, there are 3,000 cultivator skeletons outside the tomb. This not only shows that this tomb is highly valued by others, but also shows that this tomb is filled with unfathomable dangers which the other tomb palaces cannot be compared to. These 3,000 skeletons seem to be reminding Ning Fan that it was really unwise for him to enter the ancient chaotic tomb with his low cultivation base. Maybe, just maybe, it would be more rational for him to enter this tomb when his cultivation base is higher and his ability to protect himself is stronger. As soon as these thoughts emerged in Ning Fan's mind, they were immediately ingrained in his mind, causing him to remain silent. When his eyes swept across the giant monument outside the tomb and saw the introduction on it, Ning Fan's eyes were filled with shock. Apart from being tempted, he was even more shocked. The ancient chaotic tomb palace has a 9 stars cultivation method, Chaotic Ring's secret art. In ancient times, this cultivation method was known as the strongest attack among 1 billion great emperors. The tomb palace's cultivation base restriction, none. Number restriction, none. To open this tomb, 1 void token will be consumed. What moved him was that the Chaotic Ring's secret art was known as the strongest attack cultivation method among 1 billion great emperors. What shocked him was that this tomb had no restriction on the number of people or cultivation base. Yet so many experts had died. This silently showed how dangerous and terrifying this ancient chaotic tomb palace was. If Ning Fan had some confidence in entering the tomb before this, he had almost lost all of his confidence at this moment. He couldn't open the jade slip given by Sha Di in this place. If he entered the tomb recklessly with his current means of self-defense, he was afraid that there was a high chance that he would die. I must get the Chaotic Ring's secret art. But if it's really that dangerous, I'm afraid that the best way to enter this tomb is to increase my cultivation base. Ning Fan sighed softly. Ning Fan let out a soft sigh. Just as he let out a sigh, his expression changed immediately. At this moment, the ancient chaotic tomb palace suddenly emitted a faint divine light. There was even an old voice that sounded like a summoning voice resounding in Ning Fan's ears. Outsiders who enter the palace will only die. But I will allow you to enter, because you are this emperor's successor. At the moment when the voice resounded, a void token flew out from Ning Fan's storage pouch and flew towards the entrance of the tomb. Outside the entrance of the tomb, the void token suddenly ignited without any fire. The eyes of the two stone statues on both sides of the tomb palace were ignited with purple flames. With a loud bang, the entrance of the tomb opened by itself. A ray of light flashed in front of Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with surprise. When he was about to resist the light, the yin-yang locket in his body directly dragged him into the tomb. In the next moment, the tomb door closed. What entered his sight was an empty palace. There were 4 bronze palace lanterns at the 4 corners of the palace. They were extinguished, but after Ning Fan entered, each of the lanterns was immediately lit up with purple flames. In this palace, there were a total of 27 bronze statues. Under the bronze statues, there was an illusory old man standing with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the 27 bronze statues in silence. This illusory old man's back gave Ning Fan an extremely familiar feeling. Ning Fan tried to recall and immediately remembered that he had seen this back in the memories of Ancient Chaos. It was exactly the same as the appearance of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor. Ning Fan could not see through the illusory old man's cultivation base at all. He was only facing Ning Fan with his back and did not release any aura force. Even so, the innate ghost mask on Ning Fan's face was slightly trembling, as if it was afraid of this illusory old man. If there was no mistake, this illusory old man was the illusion of Ancient Chaos Great Emperor that was formed by the formation of the Tomb Palace. Just by facing the illusory old man's back, Ning Fan felt like he was facing the entire world. Even Xiang Bozi, who was a quasi-saint of the godly Void Pavilion, did not give Ning Fan such a terrifying feeling. It was as if this illusory old man only needed a single thought to destroy the entire world. No one has ever entered this tomb before. Anyone who enters this tomb will die in my hands, because they are not my inheritors. If they are not my inheritors, they are not qualified to receive my inheritance. As for you, you are my inheritor. Little friend, I have been waiting for an inheritor for far too long. The illusory old man turned around and glanced at Ning Fan. All of Ning Fan's secrets were immediately exposed in front of the old man. Ning Fan did not expect that there would be such a terrifying illusion of the Tomb Lord in the Ancient Chaos Tomb Palace. With this illusion of the Tomb Lord, even the Divine Void Emperor and Xiang Bozi would not be able to pass through this tomb. 4 drops of Fu Li ancestral blood and 4 drops of Mo Luo ancestral blood. The grade of the demon blood and devil blood are still passable, but the divine blood is too weak. To the illusory old man, the grade of Ning Fan's bloodline could only be considered passable. His eyes were as calm as the void, as if there was nothing in the world that could surprise him. However, after a while, the illusory old man's eyes suddenly changed slightly, as if he had discovered something. He lifted his finger and pointed at the ground of the palace. The entire ground immediately rippled like water, and one could even see their own reflections. There was no reflection under the feet of the illusory old man because he was not a living person but an illusion. However, under Ning Fan's feet, there was the reflection of a butterfly that was half black and half white. The moment the illusory old man saw the butterfly, his expression finally changed. "It's you. You are that butterfly. That woman came to the Zido immortal region for you. For you, she gave up everything and re-entered the cycle of reincarnation." Ning Fan's expression changed and he immediately asked, "Senior, what do you mean?" It was as if there was something extremely important that had been annihilated in samsara and forgotten by him for generations. When he was still a butterfly, as soon as the illusory old man's words fell, an indescribable sorrow flowed through Ning Fan's heart like a long river. It was not the sorrow of the ancient heavenly court or the sorrow of Fen Qi turning into ashes. That sorrow happened much earlier than that. It was so long ago that he had already forgotten about it. The illusory old man just sighed and shook his head without saying a word. When he looked at Ning Fan again, there was a rare gentleness in his eyes. That gentleness was the kind of gaze one would use when looking at an old friend. In Ning Fan's past life, he was a butterfly and he was the most ordinary butterfly. Such an ordinary butterfly should not have anything to do with the illusory old man. However, the owner of this butterfly's first life was once so powerful that it shook heaven and earth. In the past, he had never looked at this butterfly seriously. However, he did not expect that this butterfly would actually reincarnate into a human and even become his successor. When he turned around again and looked at the 27 bronze statues, he also felt an inexplicable sadness. Then he suddenly asked Ning Fan, "Do you want to obtain my inheritance of the chaotic rings art?" As soon as he finished speaking, the illusory old man gave Ning Fan a deep look. Without waiting for Ning Fan's answer, he raised his hand and pointed at the first bronze statue. "Since you are an ancient devil, you should have been to the Devil Conferral Summit. I believe you have also met the owner of this bronze statue." Ning Fan carefully looked at the appearance of the bronze statue. Vaguely, it looked somewhat similar to the young Mo Zhong whom he had met in the past. He's the 7th immortal emperor under the celestial emperor. His name is Mo Zhong. He's the only person I consider an elder brother. He is also one of the 27 yin-yang devils of my yin-yang devil body. Immortal Emperor Mo Zhong, the 7th immortal emperor under the immortal emperor, was personally killed by me in the battle of Heavenly Capital World. One of the 9 demons yin-yang, demonic carp yin-yang, this old man was able to comprehend it. As he spoke about how he had personally killed immortal Emperor Mo Zhong, the illusory old man's body immediately emitted a towering murderous aura. His eyes began to turn blood red, and there was an unshakable sorrow in his eyes. That day, he had personally killed Mo Zhong, whom he had viewed as a brother. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.